Chapter 1826. If the fire continued like this, the entire Purple Sand Island would be finished. Ning Shu was so tired that he almost fell into the sea, but he still had to keep watering the Purple Sand Island like rain to extinguish the fire. But the innate true fire was not so easy to extinguish. "Young girl, how is it?" Grand Elder Ning Shu asked. Ning Shu took out a crystal ball-sized enchantment barrier, which was perfectly round, and the senfu inside kept colliding. "There's no other way, we can only lock it up like this," Ning Shu said tiredly, and took out a jade tablet. "Grand Elder, I want to rest." Ning Shu was like a lamp that had run out of oil. His dantian was empty. There was nothing left. This person. Grand Elder looked at the light inside the crystal ball. Ning Shu said, "Leave it to me, this enchantment barrier needs to be strengthened constantly, otherwise, if it breaks, she will run away. I really can't do it now." "Then go back and rest." Grand Elder's face was pale, it seemed that he was also seriously injured. Ning Shu flew back to Lan Yuan Mountain unsteadily, he almost crawled into his room. All the meridians in his body were twisted, and his dantian was broken. Ning Shu felt that his injuries would not be healed in a year and a half. He did not know where the 9 heavens divine wind fire had drifted to. The innate true fire on the Purple Sand Island would not be extinguished in a year and a half. "Master, are you okay?" Yi Heyu saw Ning Shu and quickly went to help her, she was relieved. Ning Shu returned to his room, seeing the 2 disciples still surrounding him, he said, "I'm tired, I want to rest, you can go out." "Master, I'll wait for you at the door, call me if there's anything." Yi Heyu saw Ning Shu's face was ashen, there was no blood on his face, he took out a pill and stuffed it into Ning Shu's mouth. Ning Shu nodded. After the 2 disciples left, Ning Shu reinforced the barrier again. Then, he sat down cross-legged and began cultivating. When he was cultivating, it was as painful as if he was being sliced by 1,000 knives in a frying pan. Now, Ning Shu's meridians and dantian were damaged and twisted. The spiritual energy scouring caused his dantian and meridians to be incomparably painful. Ning Shu was in so much pain that beads of blood appeared all over his body. Even if he were to be hacked into pieces, it was still the same. Ning Shu stopped cultivating and took out a pill to consume. He felt his body slightly better. He propped up his chin and looked at the small tea table on the bed and the crystal ball like enchantment. This thing could trap Yi Yuxian for a while, but he didn't know how long it could last. The scattered light turned into a senfu. This senfu was sparkling and translucent like jade. It was pocket-sized and cute in the crystal ball, but it was slowly growing bigger, trying to break through the enchantment. Senfu could be as big as a grain of sand or as big as a mountain. As the senfu slowly grew bigger, Ning Shu quickly reinforced the enchantment. "Although I can't deal with you now, you have to stay inside." While reinforcing the enchantment, Ning Shu also had to compress the water and transform it into another kind of water. Ning Shu gritted his teeth. Cold sweat rolled down his forehead and his whole body twitched. Damn it, it was really painful. Both sides were going all out. Yi Yuxian wanted to break through the enchantment, while Ning Shu had to protect the enchantment. He couldn't let Yi Yuxian escape. Once she escaped, she would be like a bird flying in the sky. She would be doomed in the future. Ning Shu grabbed a handful of pills and stuffed them into his mouth. Damn it, his body was in so much pain. He felt like he was going to explode. Now, the senfu and the enchantment were in a deadlock. No one could do anything to the other. Ning Shu hurriedly lay down and rested for a while. This battle had already consumed all of his energy and all of his trump cards. If he really couldn't do anything to Yi Yuxian, his future would be uncertain. Yi Yuxian anxiously paced back and forth in the senfu. What should she do now? What method should she use to escape? Jiang Xuetzi, I advise you to let me go. Yi Youxuan's voice sounded from the senfu. It passed through the enchantment and into Ning Shu's ears. Hearing Yi Youxuan's exasperated voice, Ning Shu felt that the injuries he suffered were worth it. He wasn't afraid of the enemy's harsh words. He was only afraid of the enemy being too calm. Now that Yi Yuxian was so anxious, it meant that she didn't have many trump cards. Moreover, she couldn't find a trump card that could allow her to escape the enchantment. She had self-detonated her divine artifact, taken out the 9-palace mountain and set it on fire. Now, even the senfu was exposed. Yi Yuxian was no longer mysterious. Now, he was curious about what was in the senfu. After all, it was a Shinto sect. It must be very big and had many precious items. It would be the best if he could get it. Otherwise, it was fine. Ning Shu's biggest goal was to get rid of Yi Yuxian. As long as Yi Yuxian wanted to stay alive, there would be fortuitous encounters wherever she went. Today, it was the senfu. Tomorrow, there would be something else. Anyway, she had her own treasure detector. Even the treasures had grown legs and were running towards her. I won't let you out. Come out yourself if you can. Ning Shu leaned close to the crystal ball and said loudly. His voice was like thunder when it reached the senfu. Yi Yuxian covered her ears. Jiang Shuetzi, don't go too far. Let me out if you can. We can fight one-on-one. Ha! Pfft, Ning Shu laughed. Do you think I'm stupid? If I let you out, you'll run away. I won't be able to beat you if you want to take revenge on me in the future. Despicable. Yi Yuxian scolded angrily. You're too naive if you think you can trap me like this. Ning Shu said nonchalantly, I'll trap you for as long as I can. I'm happy to see you trapped. Pervert, you've always been a loser. Do you think that defeating me in this way means that you've won? That you'll be able to repair your Dao heart? Yi Yuxian sneered. Your Dao heart can never be repaired. You're just taking advantage of me. If you can, defeat me fair and square. Ning Shu supported his chin with his hand and looked at the crystal ball. He thought for a while and said, so you know everything. What do I not know? You just want to defeat me to repair your Dao heart. Otherwise, I'll be your nightmare. You won't have peace and your cultivation won't improve. Yi Yuxian said directly. Ning Shu narrowed his eyes. He finally understood why Yi Yuxian would defeat the client in one move every time the client improved a little and challenged Yi Yuxian. Yi Yuxian did it on purpose so that the client would always be in the shadows. Yi Yuxian thought that she could defeat Yi Yuxian after improving. However, Yi Yuxian defeated her with just one move. Yi Yuxian felt helpless. Yi Yuxian felt that she had no hope and could never surpass Yi Yuxian. Her efforts were useless. Defeating a person, breaking their mind, and turning them into a cripple. It doesn't matter. In any case, I've trapped you like this. The world you can move about in is only the size of the immortal mansion. There's a vast world outside. You can't even decide where to go. As for me, I can go wherever I can, Ning Shu said lightly. Chapter 1827. You. Being trapped here by such a woman was simply a disgrace. Yi Yuxian was so angry that she almost exploded. She controlled the senfu to charge out of the barrier, but the senfu turned into a ray of light and charged around the barrier. Ning Shu continued to strengthen the barrier, strengthening the barrier. Just like that, he persisted. Ning Shu couldn't do anything to Yi Yuxian, and Yi Yuxian couldn't get out. Yi Yuxian was angry that she was locked up. She had never encountered such a situation before. She couldn't take it anymore. Her pride was hurt, and she became this woman's prisoner. Even if you have the senfu to protect you, you can't get out. Ning Shu purposely provoked Yi Yuxian. Yi Yuxian was so angry that she slapped her chest and spat out a mouthful of essence blood. she looked a lot more dispirited. She had lost a lot of heart blood. After absorbing the blood essence, the immortal mansion became even more rampant in the barrier, causing the entire barrier to tremble uncontrollably. Ning Shu gritted his teeth and did his best to strengthen the barrier. He wanted to give Yi Yuxian a hint that no matter how hard she struggled, she wouldn't be able to break out of the barrier. Yi Youxuan's expression was dispirited as she sat in the immortal estate. She had temporarily stopped using the immortal estate. She was injured by the Grand Elder earlier, and the spirit qi in her body was gone. Moreover, she had damaged a lot of her heart's blood essence. The Senfu stopped attacking, and Ning Shu let out a long breath. He wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. It wasn't easy for him to hold on until now. Ning Shu took out 2 pills and started to cultivate. If he recovered his strength, he would be able to suppress Yi Yuxian if she tried anything funny. In the Senfu, Yi Youxuan's face turned green. She clutched her chest. She was so angry that she almost went berserk. Qi Cheng, who had been unconscious, woke up. He found himself in a place filled with celestial energy. He looked a little confused. What was this place? Master, you're awake. Yi Yuxian quickly asked. Qi Cheng saw his disciple and let out a sigh of relief. He asked, what is this place? This is my Senfu. I brought you here because you were injured. Yi Yuxian gave Qi Cheng a pill and said, we want to find it, but we're trapped inside. The Senfu is surrounded by a barrier, we can't get out. Qi Cheng did not expect such a thing to happen as soon as he woke up from his sleep. He also did not expect that his disciple would have such a fortuitous encounter. Speaking of which, it's all Jiang Xuezi's fault. She's like a madwoman, insisting on stopping me. Yi Yuxian was about to explode at the mention of Ning Shu. She couldn't control her temper and said angrily, we are now trapped by Jiang Xuezi's barrier. Qi Cheng frowned. Doesn't that mean that we are under Jiang Xuezi's control and can do whatever she wants? Yi Yuxian shook her head and said proudly, how is that possible? She's underestimating the Senfu's defense. Besides, she wouldn't dare to break the enchantment. If she did, the Senfu would immediately disappear. So she can only lock me up but can't do anything, said Yi Yuxian. Qi Cheng nodded. So that's the case. Qi Cheng looked around and felt the rich spiritual qi. He said, I see that this place is rich in spiritual qi. Even if we can't get out, we can cultivate first. When we become stronger, we will be able to get out. Even if we can't get out, we can still cultivate while dealing with Jiang Xuezi. Yeah, why didn't I think of that? Yi Yuxian could not help but clap her hands. She only wanted to escape, but she did not think that even if she couldn't escape, she could still cultivate in the Senfu and become stronger. If they broke the enchantment under Jiang Xuezi's watch, Jiang Xuezi would be very embarrassed. Therefore, the entire Senfu quietened down. Yi Yuxian was no longer in a hurry to escape. She was so angry at that woman that her brain was in a mess. Now, it was that woman's turn to be frustrated. She could cultivate with all her might with the spiritual qi in the Senfu. When she became stronger, she could come out for revenge. Once she came out, she could destroy the entire Purple Sand Island. She did not even have to run back. It was so convenient. The more Yi Yuxian thought about it, the happier she felt. You can't do anything to me. I will become stronger and break through the enchantment sooner or later. The people outside had to protect her every day. She was not in any danger at all. Master, you don't have to cultivate Purple Sand Island's techniques anymore. I have divine Tao techniques here, Yi Yuxian said to Qi Cheng. Qi Cheng nodded. I have already left Purple Sand Island. It is indeed inappropriate for me to cultivate Purple Sand Island's techniques. Yi Yuxian was generous. She gave her master a powerful divine Tao technique. Divine Tao techniques were used to cultivate the spirit. They were much better and more advanced than immortal cultivation techniques. Qi Qing could not help but exclaim when he saw such an exquisite technique. He thanked his disciple. It seems like I am taking advantage of you. We are master and disciple. Master, you left Purple Sand Island for me. It is just a technique, Yu Xian said casually. You are my disciple. It is only right for me to protect you, Qi Qing said directly. But these are all good things. Don't take them out casually. He casually took out a divine Dao technique. It was very eye-catching. Yu Xian said, Master, I am not stupid. How can I casually take these things out and give them to others? With Senfu's abundant spiritual energy, Yu Xian and Qi Qing began to cultivate. When they were strong enough, they would be able to break through the enchantment and be free. Ning Shu was also recuperating. When he had nothing to do, he would pay attention to the enchantment. However, after a long period of peace, Senfu did not charge around anymore. It was strangely quiet. What was going on? Did Yu Xian stop causing trouble? Ning Shu thought for a moment and understood what Yu Xian was planning. Since he could not do anything to Yu Xian, he could only cultivate inside. Senfu had more spiritual energy than the outside world. Also, the flow of time seemed to be different. A day in the outside world was like a month in Senfu. Cultivating for a day in the outside world was like cultivating for a month in the outside world. There was no comparison. Ning Shu ate some pills, wanting to extinguish the raging flames on the Purple Sand Island. Moreover, it was very difficult to extinguish the innate fire. Ning Shu absorbed water from the surroundings of Purple Sand Island. Then, he compressed the water and poured it down from the sky. Like rain, he poured it on the flames. This fire caused all the plants on Purple Sand Island to die. There was not a single bit of green left on the island. Other than the daily rain, Ning Shu also had to strengthen the enchantment. Inside the enchantment, it was always calm. There was nothing going on. Such a quiet situation was not a good sign for Ning Shu. A mini crystal Senfu sat quietly inside the enchantment. However, Ning Shu did not have a way to deal with it. It was like a big turtle shell. He could not release it, nor could he open it. It was really annoying. Chapter 1828. Ning Shu was thinking about how to open the Senfu. Those two people had been hiding in the Senfu and cultivating hard. Their speed was like sitting on a rocket. Especially since the two sides were traveling at different speeds. It couldn't be compared to this. Ning Shu thought about it and poured some water into the crystal ball like enchantment. This water was Ning Shu's compressed weak water. Nothing could float on top of the weak water, even a feather would sink. Ning Shu filled the enchantment with weak water. The Senfu was in the weak water. It didn't seem to have any effect on her. Didn't the Senfu need to breathe? Ning Shu picked up the enchantment crystal ball and said, Qi Qing should be awake. Qi Qing opened his eyes and said, Junior sister, are you happy doing this? Will you be happy? Ning Shu was speechless. Like a bad person wouldn't be happy doing bad things. Why would they do something if they weren't happy? Ning Shu said, I'm happy, very happy. I'm happy to see you guys trapped in there. And you've been kicked out of Purple Sand Island. Don't call me junior sister. Qi Qing paused and said, Junior sister, let's take a step back. You guys have the Jade card. You're doing this because you want to take revenge. That's right. I just want to take revenge. Otherwise, do you think I have nothing better to do? Ning Shu said directly. Qi Qing didn't know what to say about Ning Shu's honesty. Master, don't talk nonsense with that woman. Yu Xian saw her master talking to Jiang Xuezi and felt uncomfortable. She stopped the two from talking. Qi Qing nodded and ignored Ning Shu. Master, someone from the main palace wants you to go to the main palace. Yi Heyu's voice sounded outside the door. Okay. Ning Shu put the crystal ball enchantment into the spatial ring and opened the door. Yi Heyu asked Ning Shu, Master, are your injuries better? Not yet. He's seriously injured and will probably need some time to recuperate. Ning Shu said as he saw a small bird beside Yi Heyu's feet. This bird had fluffy feathers, but the feathers were a bit ugly and sparse. Ning Shu wondered if he had misjudged it. This guy was not a Luan at all. Although the Luan bird couldn't be compared to the phoenix, it was still considered a divine bird. This ugly appearance, what part of it looked like a divine bird? However, perhaps it was because Ugly Duckling had grown up to be good-looking. Ning Shu said to Yi Heyu, feed it some spirit fruits. It looks so skinny. Master, your disciple has fed it every day. It eats a lot, but it doesn't grow any meat. Yi Henyun said helplessly. After his younger sister despised this bird, his master also despised this bird. At the very least, you have to work harder. Ning Shu flew to the main palace. There was a group of elders and the sect master in the main palace. When they saw Ning Shu arrive, they all greeted Ning Shu. Ning Shu returned the greeting, then asked the sect master, did something happen? I called you here to discuss this jade pendant. Now that the jade pendant is in our hands, we know a little about the situation in the mystic realm, the sect master said slowly. Should we take out the treasures inside, or keep it as a training ground for the sect disciples? Ning Shu thought for a moment. Let's take the path of sustainable development. Let's use the mystic realm as a training ground for the disciples. Let's enter it once every 10 years. In the past, even without the mystic realm, our Purple Sand Island survived. There's no reason why we can't survive now that there's a mystic realm. Moreover, there's one less natural treasure inside. Let's use it sparingly. Unless it's absolutely necessary, don't take it. Thin water flows long. The sect master nodded. That's right. What do the others think? The elders looked at each other, some of them disagreeing, saying that there were some precious things inside, rare heavenly treasures that should be moved to the sect's collection. Otherwise, they would be ruined by the beasts in the mystic realm. Some agreed that everything should remain the same. If something happened to the Purple Sand Island in the future, they could still move it to the mystic realm. The mystic realm could be used as a base for the rear. They should not destroy it. Moreover, the fire on the Purple Sand Island was still burning. Who knew when something would happen to the Purple Sand Island? Since the two sides could not come to an agreement, the sect master asked the Grand Elder who was resting with his eyes closed, Grand Elder, what do you think? The Grand Elder opened his eyes and said directly, don't forget, there's still a person who forced our Purple Sand Island to this point. She's not dead yet. No one can do anything to her. Everyone looked at Ning Shu. Is there no other way? There's no other way. Moreover, there are all kinds of cultivation resources in the Senfu. We can only trap them for a while. We don't know when they'll come out. Ning Shu shook his head. No one was in the mood to fight for the treasures in the mystic realm. There was a powerful enemy. That enemy would definitely seek revenge in the future. We'll listen to the sect master and the Grand Elder. Everyone said. Ning Shu walked out of the main hall and said to the alchemist, Old Duan, the fire burning by the sea is Xiantian true fire. It's the best for alchemy. Old Duan sighed. I've tried to get some Xiantian true fire. But I don't have a matching alchemy furnace. Ordinary alchemy furnaces would be directly burned by the Xiantian true fire. I can't help you with this. I'll have to look for a good alchemy furnace for you next time. Ning Shu shook his head. Old Duan gave Ning Shu a bottle of pills. Ning Shu opened it. The fragrance of the pills filled the air. Smelling it, he could feel a cooling smell. It slightly eased the discomfort in his body. This is good stuff. Ning Shu accepted it without hesitation. Old Duan stroked his beard and said, so many people were injured. I didn't give it to anyone else. I'll give it to you. Ning Shu immediately said, thank you for remembering me. Cough cough. Old Duan coughed. I heard that you got hold of an ancient Shinto sect, Senfu. There must be a very good alchemy furnace. I heard that the ancient alchemy furnace could refine heaven and earth into pills. I don't think I'll be alive to get such a good thing. If there's a good alchemy furnace, you must get one for me. Ning Shu, old man, that Senfu has an owner now. I can't do anything about it. Don't get your hopes up. Ning Shu shook his head and said. With her current strength, she could only be locked up like this. When Yi Yuxian became stronger, she would definitely break through the current situation. I'm saying if. If she really breaks through, remember to leave a good alchemy furnace for me. Old Duan said. Ning Shu sighed and nodded. The Senfu was a small matter. The important thing was Yi Yuxian. If Yi Yuxian died, what would happen to the Senfu? Would the Senfu create another person like Yi Yuxian? Chapter 1829. Ning Shu placed her hand on the enchantment, and the water in the enchantment began to boil, bubbling and bubbling. The water had already boiled. The surroundings of the immortal residence kept on bubbling. The turtle is being boiled in water. The entire crystal ball became extremely hot. The temperature of the weak water inside was very high. Although it could not do anything to Senfu, it was very satisfying to boil it like this. You're looking down on the immortal mansion too much. Do you think this kind of temperature can do anything to the immortal mansion? We can't feel anything inside the immortal mansion, Yi Yuxian said coldly. Even if the immortal mansion was submerged in lava, it would still be fine. Even if it was struck by lightning or gales, it would not be affected in the slightest. Ning Shu smiled and said, what's the problem? I like to see turtles boiled in water. Besides, this is weak water, not ordinary water. Ordinary water could only be boiled to a maximum of 90 to 100 degrees Celsius. However, weak water was different. The weight of this water was different from ordinary water, and its temperature was different. Yi Yuxian was not scared. She sneered and said, child's play. We had no choice but to do this. Aren't you ashamed? We will only know if it is effective after we try. If 1 month is not enough, we will boil it for 2 months. If 2 months is not enough, we will boil it for 4 months. Ning Shu said with a smile. He did not seem to be in a hurry. Yi Yuxian sneered and said, Jiang Shuetzi, 1 month, 2 months, 4 months. Do you know how long we have been in there? Are you retarded? If they were really locked up for that long, with her strength, she would not be able to break the barrier in half an hour. When she was strong enough, she would be able to use the power of the divine weapon. Yi Yuxian thought about how she had self-destructed so many divine weapons. The divine weapons in the arsenal had been reduced by half. Yi Yuxian decided to come out and destroy the entire Purple Sand Island. Ning Shu pointed at the weak water and added some water to it. Then, he continued to boil it. Ning Shu used his divine sense to invade the enchantment. He felt that his divine sense was very hot, and it seemed to have been scalded. Ning Shu retracted his spiritual sense. The temperature of the weak water was really high, but it seemed to have no effect on the sparkling and translucent crystal Senfu. An Anwei stood firmly in the enchantment, motionless. Master, master, come quickly. Yi Heyu howled from outside. He had never seen Yi Heyu so anxious before. Ning Shu put away the barrier and went out to take a look. He saw a fist-sized bird wrapped in flames running around. What's the situation? Ning Shu's rain fell on the fleeing birds. The water and fire sizzled, but the fire was not extinguished yet. The birds cried out mournfully. After drenching the bird twice, the flames on the bird's body were finally drenched. The bird's body was completely black, and the sparse feathers on its body were all gone. Furthermore, there seemed to be a smell of roasted meat coming from it. What happened? Ning Shu asked Yihayu. Yihayu fed the weak bird some pills and said, "It ran to the beach. There's a fire there, so it got infected." Ning Shu looked at the uglier bird. "If you want to imitate the phoenix, you need to see your strength. With your current weak appearance, the innate true fire can directly burn you to death." The bird weakly cried out to Ning Shu, then its head tilted and it fainted. "Master, is the clown okay?" Yi Meiyu saw that the bird was not moving and was immediately frightened. "It's probably roasted," Ning Shu said. "Master." Yi Meiyu was stunned. Although she usually said that the bird was ugly, she never thought that it would die. "Sister, it's not dead. Master is just teasing you. It's still alive." Yihayu was more mature. When she saw the bird's chest rising and falling, she knew that it was not dead. "Master." Yi Meiyu stomped her feet, turned around and ran away. Ning Shu looked at the bird. "Don't apply any medicine to it. It might have done it on purpose." Yihayu looked hesitant, but still asked, "Are you really not going to apply medicine to it? What if something happens? Even an ant wants to live. It's not stupid. It deliberately got infected by the fire. In the future, if it gets infected by the fire, you should stay away from it. Its body has a certain tolerance for fire, but you can't." Ning Shu said. "Master, why did the clown do that?" Yihayu asked. "It's for the sake of becoming stronger. Don't worry about it. If it can't handle it, it will run to me. Let her put out the fire." Ning Shu was just saying, but he did not expect that once the bird recovered, it would run to Ning Shu's yard and cause trouble again with a few loose feathers on its body. Then, a ball of fire ran to Ning Shu's yard and chirped at him. Ning Shu was speechless. Ning Shu deliberately prolonged the burning time. When the bird was about to die, he put out the fire. The black bird without feathers looked even uglier. Yihayu carried the bird away. She had never seen a bird that was so suicidal. After that, the feathers on the bird's body became much prettier. However, it did not grow taller. It was always the size of an adult man's fist. If it had no feathers, it would be even smaller. It did not have much flesh. However, the bird's tolerance for fire was much stronger. It was fine even after the fire burned on its body for a long time. The only benefit of the innate true fire now was that it could strengthen the bird's body. This bird might be a Luan or a phoenix. Who could say for sure? When he had nothing to do, Ning Shu would check on the progress of his two disciples' cultivation. Yihayu's progress was steady and solid. However, Yi Meiyu was not so serious. Yi Meiyu was only 7 or 8 years old. She was at the age where she played around. Her pursuit of strength was very vague. There was some spiritual energy in her dantian. She had not even formed her qi gene. Her brother was about to build his foundation. Ning Shu silently looked at Yi Meiyu. Yi Meiyu's two little fingers were tangled together. She said in a low voice, "Master, I will definitely work hard. Do you still want to be a beauty? Do you still want to be the #1 beauty in the cultivation world?" Ning Shu said. "According to your current cultivation speed, you won't be able to become a beauty even in 100 years. I will definitely work hard," Yi Meiyu quickly said. Ning Shu waved his hand to let Yi Meiyu leave. Then he said to Yihayu, "If anything happens to the Purple Sand Island, you take your sister and leave." "Is it still because of Yi Yuxian?" Yihayu asked. "Isn't she already trapped by you?" "I don't know how long I can trap her. When she comes out, our purple sand island will be finished. At that time, you and the others will hide in the secret realm. When Yi Yuxian comes out, she will definitely take revenge. The entire purple sand island may be sunk. Master, is there no way to deal with it? Yi Hu asked. I will think of another way. She was up against the foundation of a Shinto sect. An individual's strength was like a mayfly trying to shake a tree. Even the weak water boiling was useless against the Senfu. Ning Shu pointed at the crystal ball. The boiling weak water slowly turned into ice and froze the Senfu. I will boil and freeze and boil again. Even if I can't do anything to you, I will be happy. Jiang Shuetzi, are you crazy? Yi Yuxian roared. Chapter 1830. Although the immortal abode could resist the heat and cold, it could still more or less be felt. Sometimes it was cold and sometimes it was hot. Was there something wrong with it? Although a cultivator's body was immune to heat and cold, there were some coldness that even a cultivator could not resist. Ning Shu did not expect the weak water to be so cold. Even though there was a barrier between them, Ning Shu could still feel the coldness in his room. He wrapped his blanket tightly around himself. The coffee table was covered with a layer of frost. No wonder Yi Yuxian was furious. It was better to freeze a tortoise than to boil it. Ning Shu grinned and began to cultivate. In the Senfu, Yi Yuxian and Qi Cheng were covered with a layer of frost. Even their eyebrows were covered with white frost. When they breathed, they exhaled white fog. Moreover, the entire immortal abode was covered in white frost. Yi Yuxian had to circulate her qi to resist the cold. This cold could even freeze one's divine senses. That woman is too evil. She always thinks of ways to torture us, Yi Yuxian said angrily. Qi Cheng was calmer. She can't do anything to us. That's why she thought of such tricks. The most important thing for us now is to cultivate. We don't have to care about anything else. Yi Yuxian nodded. I'll try to control the 9-Palace Mountain. My 9-Palace Mountain should be able to break the barrier. I didn't expect Jiang Shuetzi to be so powerful. Qi Cheng said. Jiang Shuetzi used to talk to him about cultivation. She was not as powerful as she was now. Now, she had the entire Senfu under her control. Although she could not do anything to them for now, they were still under her control. Qi Cheng thought for a while and said, our most important task now is to get out. It's best if Jiang Shuetzi releases us. That's impossible. Didn't you see that Jiang Shuetzi wanted to skin me alive? How could she release us? Yi Yuxian did not believe it. Qi Cheng said, let me try. Junior sister, please let us out. I can swear that I will not take revenge on Purple Sand Island, you, or anyone on Purple Sand Island. Qi Cheng looked up and said loudly. Ning Shu withdrew her power and stopped cultivating. She said directly, I don't believe it. I can swear on my Tao heart. Qi Cheng said, if we do this, both of us will suffer. Neither of us can do anything to the other. Why don't we just laugh it off and forget about our enmity? Ning Shu wanted to bury the hatchet with a smile, but would Yi Yuxian do that? Moreover, there were loopholes in the Heart Demon Oath. Moreover, the Heart Demon Oath might not have any effect on Yi Yuxian. Even if an inner demon appeared, it could be dealt with instantly. Ning Shu thought about it and said, if you give me the 9-Palace Mountain, I can consider it. Let's trade. You can only show your sincerity if you give me something in exchange. Dream on, I will not give you the 9-Palace Mountain. Yi Yuxian said directly, berating Ning Shu for daydreaming. You want the 9-Palace Mountain? Dream on. Then there's nothing to talk about. Ning Shu sat down cross-legged and began cultivating. He no longer cared about such a negotiation. Yi Yuxian's mouth twitched. What a fool's dream. Wanting the 9-palace mountain? Why not go to heaven? Qi Cheng wiped away the frost on his eyelashes. Jiang Shuetzi is not sincere at all. You want my things? Dream on. Yu Xian sat cross-legged. At most, I will be able to leave when I become stronger. Moreover, I can't control the 9-palace mountain. Can Jiang Shuetzi control it? Yu Xian looked at him with disdain. Qi Cheng blinked and suddenly said, since she wants the 9-palace mountain, give it to her. Master, what do you mean? Yu Xian was puzzled. In fact, being trapped like this is not good for your cultivation state. We cultivate to surpass ourselves and surpass heaven and earth. Haven't you realized that your temper is very irritable now, especially when it comes to Jiang Shuetzi? You explode at the slightest provocation. This is not a good sign. Qi Cheng said. Although Qi Cheng was not as lucky as Yu Xian, he was still a soul formation cultivator. He had lived for hundreds of years and was more intelligent than Yu Xian. Yu Xian patted her chest. I do feel uncomfortable. When I think of that woman, Jiang Shuetzi, I feel even more uncomfortable. Jiang Shuetzi has developed inner demons because of you. As you are locked up for a long time, you may develop inner demons for her too. It is not worth it. Qi Cheng knew that his disciple was a proud person. Now that she was locked up, it was possible that her mental state would be damaged. Some people could train their mental state, but some people could not. What is mine is mine. If I give it to Jiang Shuetzi, I will really develop inner demons. Her things were hers. What did it mean to give it to someone else? Think about it. Now that you have given it to her and she has just gotten it, you snatched it away the moment you came out. The most painful thing is not to not get what you want, but to lose what you have, Qi Cheng said mildly. Yu Xian felt much better after hearing Qi Cheng's words. She said loudly, I agree to give you the 9-palace mountain. Ning Shu was a little surprised that Yu Xian was willing to give it to him. How was that possible? Even if the thing was in her hands, she would not give it to him. Okay, Ning Shu said. But you have to swear an inner demon oath. Once you get the thing, you will release the seal and let us go, Yu Xian said. Ning Shu said, then I have to get the thing and verify its authenticity. Swear. Yu Xian did not give in. Ning Shu raised his hand and swore. I, Jiang Shuetzi, swear that once I get the thing, I will let the two of you go. Yu Xian heard Ning Shu swear. She thought carefully to see if there were any loopholes and took out the 9-palace mountain. Yu Xian opened her hand and there was a mini mountain in her palm. The 9-palace mountain slowly floated out of the senfu. Ning Shu reached into the seal and grabbed the 9-palace mountain. The 9-palace mountain was very, very heavy. Ning Shu took it out with difficulty. After taking the 9-palace mountain, Ning Shu strengthened the seal. Yu Xian and Qi Cheng raised their chins and waited for Ning Shu to open the seal. However, after waiting for a long time, Ning Shu did not open the seal. Yu Xian was furious. Jiang Shuetzi, what is the meaning of this? You already have the 9-palace mountain. Why are you still not opening the seal? It's not impossible to open the barrier, but you have to swear that you won't take revenge on anyone on Purple Sand Island. You won't take revenge on Purple Sand Island. Ning Shu said indifferently, looking at the 9-palace mountain in her hand. It was so small. Yu Xian was tongue-tied. You are cheating. Aren't you afraid that your inner demon will act up? Ning Shu said calmly, I will definitely let you go, but not now. You are shameless. Yu Xian was furious. Qi Cheng comforted her. There is no hurry. Since Jiang Shuetzi has sworn an inner demon oath, she will not dare to break it. Otherwise, when the inner demon acts up, she will be burned by the fire of karma and never be reincarnated. Chapter 1831. Although she said that, Yoshuan's heart was still filled with anger. If this went on, she would really have a heart demon. Ning Shu had been studying the Nine Palace Mountain. There were 9 levels in the Nine Palace Mountain, but he did not know how to enter. Moreover, he did not know how many souls were inside, and there were even living people. Ning Shu flew to the main hall and said to the sect master, "I might have found a way to deal with the Senfu." The sect master was surprised. "What way?" "I can only try my best." Ning Shu decided to get rid of the Senfu completely in public. If he did it secretly, these people would ask for the Senfu back and accuse him of hiding things from the Senfu. Many elders rushed over after hearing the news. If he really got rid of the Senfu, he might be able to get some benefits from it. After all, it was an ancient Shinto sect, pills, techniques, and spirit stones. Ning Shu took out the exorcism cinnabar brush and drew talismans on the Nine Palace Mountain. At the same time, Ning Shu chanted the rebirth scripture. Ning Shu wanted the Nine Palace Mountain because he had an idea. It would depend on whether this idea could be realized. If it was realized, he would be able to get rid of these 2 people. Ning Shu stood in the courtyard. The Nine Palace Mountain grew bigger and bigger until it stood in front of Ning Shu. The entire Nine Palace Mountain was surrounded by black gas. Souls were coming out. Ning Shu chanted the rebirth scripture even louder. Ning Shu's soul rushed over. Ning Shu's expression was solemn as he chanted the rebirth scripture. A black hole slowly appeared in the courtyard. This black hole should be a place to store souls. Souls would instinctively float towards the black hole. Ning Shu had seen this kind of black hole before. The black hole had only appeared for a short period of time, and now it was slowly closing. Ning Shu took out a crystal ball-sized enchantment, and directly threw the entire crystal ball, along with the immortal mansion within the enchantment, into the black hole. The black hole slowly closed. The surroundings were silent as if nothing had happened. Ning Shu shrank Nine Palace Mountain and put it away. Although he did not know what the black hole was, he knew that he would not be able to come out after entering it. Fortunately, the plan had succeeded. Some of the Nine Palace Mountain souls had also entered the black hole. Ning Shu felt that the entire Nine Palace Mountain had become lighter. Ning Shu spat out a mouthful of black blood, looking extremely exhausted. Now that she had let the 2 of them leave, it was none of her business where they were placed. He had no choice but to hide in his turtle shell all day long. However, Ning Shu was very curious. What was in that black hole? Was it the world of samsara? There was life and death. If the constructed world was to become a real world with living beings, then the world of samsara was indispensable. In other words, in order to construct a world, he had to construct 2 worlds. Is that so? The sect leader was a little confused. Yeah, that's it. Everyone was still hoping to get something good. Now that they had thrown the things into a black hole that came out of nowhere, there was nothing left. You have to be alive to get the things. I have no way to deal with it and could only think of such a method. Moreover, Yoshuan's luck is very strong. She will definitely become an expert. When the time comes, whatever she takes, she will have to pay back double. Ning Shu said coldly. Old man Duan sighed, mourning his pill furnace. Although everyone had their opinions, when they thought about how Yuxian almost caused the entire Purple Sand Island to collapse, they could only take it that they did not have the luck. Ning Shu returned to his own mountain and closed the door. He laid on his bed to rest. He felt that his entire body was drained, like his body had been hollowed out. This period of time was really fucking tiring. Ning Shu slept for a few days. The world of the black hole was black and gray. There was no blue sky, no clear spring water, no green plants. There was only endless sand and weird-looking black plants. The crystal ball landed on the black ground. In this gray world, it was exceptionally beautiful. Especially the crystal senfu in the enchantment, it was dazzling. In the senfu, Yi Yuxian and Qi Cheng were bewildered. Why was it so quiet outside? Jiang Xuezi, Jiang Xuezi. Yi Yuxian shouted loudly. However, in this vast place, her voice was very soft. However, there was only silence in response. Yi Yuxian could not help but ask Qi Cheng, Master, what's going on? Isn't Jiang Xuezi afraid that her inner demons will act up? I don't know what's going on either. Qi Cheng also felt that something was wrong. He shouted, Jiang Xuezi. Still, no one answered them. As time passed, the enchantment became thinner and thinner. The wind here was very strong. With the erosion of sand, the enchantment was about to break. A pale and slender hand picked up the senfu. The voice was cold. You're really throwing all kinds of rubbish in here. The pale hand exerted a little force, and the two hands were like rubbing paper, directly breaking the enchantment. And the immortal's mansion that gave Ning Shu an incomparable headache was destroyed like a toy. It was broken into pieces, crushed into mud, and fell on the black ground, becoming one with the earth. The senfu was destroyed. In the senfu, Yi Yuxian and Yi Heyu's bodies were annihilated in an instant. A pair of pale hands clapped as if to dust off the hands. Then, the pale hand plucked a black flower from the ground. In contrast, the pale hand looked even paler. Black and white, stunning and terrifying. In some worlds, some people were gods. They could do anything. Ning Shu slept very well. When he woke up, he felt as light as a feather. It was as if he was about to become an immortal. For some reason, Ning Shu's mood was unexpectedly good. Perhaps it was because he had finally solved the senfu problem. He felt as if the world had brightened up. Master, Master. Yi Heyu shouted outside the door. Master, I have something to report. Ning Shu opened the door. Yi Heyu cupped his hands and said, Master, quickly go and take a look at the clown. The fire on its body is getting bigger. Yi Heyu brought Ning Shu to the bird's nest. The bird's body was burning with fire, and the fire was getting fiercer and fiercer. Even the bird's shadow could not be seen. Ning Shu frowned. It's okay. Its aura is getting stronger, so don't worry. It seemed that the connate fire this time had given this bird some opportunities. The fire is getting bigger, Yi Heyu said worriedly. She can't take it and will rush over to find me. Let's just wait here. Don't worry. Ning Shu sat on the steps and looked at the roasted bird. Yi Heyu was not as carefree as Ning Shu. He had been taking care of the bird since it hatched. Now that something happened to it, he was as anxious as if something had happened to his daughter or sister. The bird grew bigger and bigger. Its body was covered in fire. It spread its wings and screeched at the sky. Finally, it flew into the sky and circled the entire purple sand island. No one knew what was happening. They only thought that it was an enemy attack, especially when it was covered in fire. Chapter 1832. Currently, the people of Purple Sand Island were most afraid of fire. They would tremble when they saw anything related to fire. The fire bird flying in the sky gradually disappeared and turned into a beautiful bird. It was the image of a phoenix. It had the head of a snake and the tail of a fish. It had the back of a turtle and the jaw of a swallow and the beak of a chicken. It was a phoenix. The bird flew in front of Yi Heyu and offered its head to Yi Heyu's face. It cried out in a low voice. The phoenix's cry was like a flute and the sound was like a drum. Countless seabirds flew towards Purple Sand Island as if they were worshipping the newly born phoenix. The bird grabbed Yi Heyu's clothes with its beak and threw him onto its back. It then flew into the sky with Yi Heyu on its back. Countless birds followed behind it. Yi Heyu stood on the bird's back. The strong wind blew and she couldn't help but laugh. Such a beautiful bird attracted many people's attention. Ning Shu sent a message to Yi Heyu, "That's enough. It hasn't grown up yet. This is only temporary." Yi Heyu patted the phoenix's back and it flew down. But when it landed, it turned back into its previous appearance. There were only a few sparse feathers on its body. It was the size of a fist. It was smaller than a chicken. Yi Heyu was speechless. The difference was too big. She couldn't bear to look at it. Ning Shu said, she should be slowly getting used to the innate true fire. Take good care of her. Who knows when she will completely transform into a phoenix. I understand. Yi Heyu saw that Ning Shu was relaxed and asked, "Master, did something good happen? Isn't this a good thing?" Ning Shu smiled. Yi Heyu looked at Ning Shu and lowered her head, "Master, something is different." Of course, it wasn't the same. The biggest problem had been solved, and she felt relieved. Her mission was finally completed. Although there were some things in the immortal estate that she couldn't obtain, dealing with Yi Yuxian was the most important thing. Cultivate well. The phoenix is just an external force. Ning Shu looked relaxed. During this time, I plan to go out and train. Master, will you take me? Yi Heyu asked. Why would I bring you along? I don't even know where I'm going, so I'm just walking around. I don't have an exact destination. Ning Shu wanted to walk around and see if he could find the source of the world. When he left, he would also pick up a sect mission. Master, this disciple would also like to see the world, Yi Heyu said. You have plenty of time. Don't worry. If you leave, who will take care of the birds? Ning Shu said. Yi Heyu could only cup his hands and say, Master, please be careful. I will wait for your return. Ning Shu nodded and quickly packed his luggage. He also accepted a sect mission and left. As they strolled around, Ning Shu told 2333 to pay attention to their surroundings to see if there were any world origin around. Occasionally, Ning Shu would have to act as a doctor. If there were children who were about to give birth or were sick, he would give them a hand. If there were children with immortal foundation, Ning Shu would also bring them along. Occasionally, he would find some precious treasures of heaven and earth. However, what Ning Shu needed was the world origin, not any treasures of heaven and earth. Could it be that he couldn't find the world origin in this world? What a scam! Ning Shu couldn't remember how long it had been since he last found the world origin. He felt that it was getting harder and harder to find the world origin. Now that he thought about it, he had found 4. There were still 3 more, especially light and darkness. Where could they go? There weren't many world origins circulating on the market. Mission complete. Do you want to leave the mission world? 2333's voice sounded in Ning Shu's mind. Ning Shu nodded. Let's go. Since he couldn't find the world origin, maybe the next world would have it. Even if the next world didn't have it, there were still billions of planes. Ning Shu could only comfort himself like this. Back in the system space, Ning Shu lit some agarwood and began to absorb the pure soul power. He hoped that there would be more soul power this time. After absorbing it, Ning Shu looked down at his soul. It seemed to be a little stronger, but it wasn't very obvious. He could only take it slowly. 2333 said, the chat system is going to explode. Many people are looking for you. Ning Shu leaned on the sofa and opened the chat system. There were law incarnations looking for her, and there were also people from the auction house looking for her. Ning Shu didn't expect Hongyu to send her a message. She wanted her to be a qualified city lord and not use her power to do whatever she wanted. Ning Shu rolled her eyes. What does it have to do with you? Why do you have to stand up for the auction house? There were also people from the auction house who said that they wanted to see Ning Shu. Ning Shu happily decided to lock her up for a while. Maybe when she remembered, she would open the barrier. So far, only small fries were jumping around. People with a little weight didn't say anything. Therefore, Ning Shu wasn't in a hurry. Since he had already alerted the enemy, he had to see if the snake was a 5-step snake or a cobra. Ning Shu casually browsed the chat system and said to 2333, "Just say that I'm not here. I'm doing a mission." Ning Shu didn't care about the tax from the auction house. Let's fight to the death. She was best at fighting to the death. Without the auction house, maybe the business of the other shops would be better. She might even have more tax revenue, so it didn't matter whether there was an auction house or not. In the end, he disappeared from her sight. This feeling was even better. Everyone did things according to the rules. If you want to be special, then I'll take special care of you. Wait for the master behind you to come out and talk. You're good, I'm good, and everyone is good. Ning Shu browsed the people who sent her messages. In addition to Hongyu, there were some people who advised her not to go too far. There was someone behind the auction house. Ning Shu turned off the chat system. She was too lazy to pay attention to it. Now that things had come to this, she couldn't let go of her strong start and weak finish. Where was she going to put her face as the city lord? She couldn't do something like slapping herself in the face. She already said that she had someone behind her. Wasn't it a little too easy to scare her? In the future, she could reduce the tax revenue of the shops whenever she wanted. Everyone said that they had someone behind them. She could give them as much as she wanted. That would be the real deal. She didn't want to leave. Ning Shu glanced around and saw a mini mountain on the coffee table in front of the sofa. This small mountain looks a little familiar. Isn't this Nine Palace Mountain? When did it come here? You brought it back. Ning Shu asked 2333. 2333 said, "This Nine Palace Mountain has 9 worlds. It's a good treasure that can form worlds." Ning Shu nodded, "There should be a lot of souls in here." As Ning Shu spoke, she felt a strong suction force from the black hole on the wall. It was as if it was going to suck her in. Ning Shu's face was expressionless. It's messing up again. It seems to want to devour the Nine Palace Mountain. 2333 said. Ning Shu didn't even think and threw the Nine Palace Mountain into the black hole. Chapter 1833. The black hole trembled for a while, but there was no other reaction. Ning Shu was speechless. Regarding this, Ning Shu was speechless. Ning Shu lay on the sofa and smelled the fragrance. He opened the attribute panel and looked at his gains. Name, Ning Shu. Age, 27. Level, Super Mission Taker Contribution Card, 147, 10 million points per contribution card. Soul, 6 health points, 5 wisdom, 8 luck, 8 charm, 3 mental power, 6 combat power, 7 aptitude, 4 faith, 112128 merit, 592700 soul power, 305 authorization ticket, none law comprehended, water rule pure heart, none tools, calming halo, calming pill, faith halo, amulet 4, upgraded amulet 2 honorary titles, goddess of war, selfless ancestor skills, 5th ring shooting technique, intermediate close combat technique, intermediate martial arts, intermediate poison technique, beginner business management knowledge, beginner code programming, beginner lawyer skill, sage ghost catching skill, beginner cooking skill, intermediate embroidery skill. Auras, mother of the world, queen's blessing, sister model worker, Chen Shi's blessing, leader aura, grass blessing, best friend for life, Miao Miao Miao's blessing. Healer of the dying, Zhu Sun Yang's blessing, founding woman, Chen Ermiai's blessing, beauty of the law, Chen Ning's blessing, bane of the blood clan, Jasmine's blessing, communication between races, Bai Sanyang's blessing, heart of the brave, Wang Ying's blessing. Completed Jiang Xuetzi's wish, repair the Tao heart. Mission completion rate, 100%. Mission reward, 10 contribution cards, 8 attribute points, 70% of soul power, 8,500 points of faith, including the previous world's accumulation. No wonder Ning Shu felt that his soul power was not as much as before. It was only 70%. He had more than 8,000 points of faith and no merit card. Ning Shu was bored to death, so she used her attribute points. Name, Ning Shu. Age, 27. Level, Super Mission Taker Contribution Card, 147, 10 million points per contribution card. Soul, 61 health points, 51 wisdom, 81 luck, 81 charm, 31 mental power, 61 combat power, 71 aptitude, 41 faith, 112128088500 merit, 592700 soul strength, 354 authorization ticket, none law comprehended, water law pure heart, none items, calm halo, tranquilizer, faith halo, amulet 4, upgraded amulet 2. Honorary titles, goddess of war, selfless ancestor skills, 5th ring shooting technique, intermediate close combat technique, intermediate martial arts, intermediate poison technique, beginner business management knowledge, beginner code programming, beginner lawyer skill, sage ghost catching skill, beginner cooking skill, intermediate embroidery skill. Aura, mother of the world, queen's blessing, sister model worker, Chen Shi's blessing, leader aura, grass blessing, lifelong best friend, Miao Miao Miao's blessing. Healer of the dying, Zhu Sun Yang's blessing, founding woman, Chen Ermiai's blessing, beauty in law, Chen Ning's blessing, bane of the blood clan, Jasmine's blessing, communication between races, by San Yang's blessing, heart of the brave, Wang Ying's blessing. Ning Shu said to 2333, the next mission is a little easier. Ning Shu then lay down on the sofa and fell asleep. Smelling the fragrance of the incense, a cool feeling gathered in his soul, and he fell into a deep sleep. The system space was quiet, white smoke rose from the incense burner, and it was peaceful. Ning Shu woke up and revived on the spot, full of vitality. When you stare at the abyss is also staring at you. Doing missions every day, meeting all kinds of people, all kinds of negative things, just like the abyss. He had to adjust his state of mind at all times, otherwise, it would be easy for things to go wrong. 2333 Ning Shu asked, are you going to Water City? Let's go and have a look, strengthen the barrier, and also strengthen the barrier of the auction house. Ning Shu said with a smile. Ning Shu went to Water City to strengthen the barrier, walked around, and came back. He bought books about the law of water from the system space, especially the law of water. While reading, he practiced using the law of water. He could use water to turn it into any shape, such as a bowl, a boat. Water should be the law with the strongest plasticity among all the laws. It existed in many different states, and its temperature and weight were all different. It could be nurtured, and it could be destroyed. Ning Shu said, why is the law of water so suppressed in the other planes? It's not that bad. Different planes have different laws. If you have your own world, you are a god in that world, you can do anything, and your power is incomparable. But in other planes, you can't. 2333 said, the other planes are xenophobic, instinctively rejecting other laws. How can they let you do whatever you want? Ning Shu grinned and flipped through the book. Then let's go do the mission. The most important thing now was to strengthen his soul, so it would not be affected by the emotions of the person who entrusted him. I told you. Make a simple quest. It's simple, right? Ning Shuchao asked 2333. 2333, don't worry, it will be a simple mission. That's good. Ning Shu's head was dizzy. His soul merged into a body, and for some reason, he felt very cramped. What's going on? Ning Shu moved his body and opened his eyes. In front of him was a black and white world, like a black and white TV. Ning Shu could not help but want to rub his eyes. Are his eyes broken? Ning Shu was used to a colorful world, and such pure black and white made him feel very uncomfortable. Ning Shu wanted to rub his eyes with his hand, but a paw drooped over. Ning Shu looked at his paw, looked back, and saw his tail, which was wagging unconsciously. Ning Shu was speechless. Although he did not want to admit it, he had now become a dog. Ning Shu raised his hind leg and looked at his crotch. Fortunately, it was a male dog. If it was a female dog, there would always be a male dog following behind and smelling its butt. Ning Shu felt that he might bite the female dog to death. Ning Shu tried to smile, and his tongue slipped out of his long mouth. Ning Shu really wanted to use his paw to stuff his tongue back in. And it looked like a golden retriever. This was the simple mission 2333 mentioned. It was so simple. Was he going to let her become a cute dog and act cute every day? Ning Shu did not know what to say to 2333. Ning Shu began to accept the plot. Well, there was no plot. The basic information was that this dog was a guide dog, called Bei Bei. It came out of a guide dog school and worked with a blind masseuse. The blind masseuse was called Ingji. He was alone, and one man and one dog depended on each other. Then there was no other information, no plot, and no wish. Chapter 1834. He gave the man and the dog some information that couldn't be any simpler, and that was all. Ning Shu couldn't control his instinct. He knocked his head on the floor and asked 2333, please tell me the wish for this mission. A dog's wish. 2333 coughed, do as you see fit. This mission is very simple. Do what a dog should do. As for the wish, we don't know what a dog wants. Dogs can't talk. Ning Shu was speechless. Ning Shu stuck out his long tongue and panted. A guide dog is a type of working dog. Trained guide dogs can help blind people get to schools, shops, laundries, and gardens. They are used to being restrained by collars, leashes, and other accessories. They know a lot of commands and can lead blind people safely. When they encounter obstacles and need to turn, they will guide their owner to stop to avoid danger. Guide dogs have a natural and peaceful mentality. They will stand, refuse food, help blind people to get to the bus, pass items, ignore passers-by, and will not attack them. Suitable guide dogs are Labradors, Golden Retrievers, German Wolfhounds, and Poodles. Ning Shu is now a big Golden Retriever. A guide dog is very familiar with its owner's regular work schedule, such as the route to and from work, frequented restaurants, supermarkets, friends' houses, and so on. The dog knows where its owner frequents, where it stays, and how long it stays. The dog can remember a friend's address, and even after a year, it will still lead its owner to that location. A guide dog and its owner form a very strong relationship. This relationship is filled with affection and sometimes even surpasses that of family. A guide dog is the eyes of the visually impaired, an assistant, a close family member, and a loyal companion. Ning Shu looked at the clock on the wall, but all he saw was black and white. He was a little uncomfortable. Ning Shu stood up and went to the room. At this time, Ingji should be up. Ning Shu opened the door with his paw, walked into the room, and pushed the man on the bed with his paw. Because Ning Shu was using his four-legged body, his whole body was not right. Ning Shu pushed Ingji a few times with his paw, but Ingji still didn't wake up. Ning Shu wondered if he was sick. Ning Shu jumped onto the bed, stuck out his tongue, and licked Ingji's face with all his might. She could be considered to have washed her face, but her mouth was full of oil. Taking a closer look, Ingji was quite good-looking. His facial features were regular, and if his eyes were normal, he could be considered a handsome guy. After licking his face, Ning Shu directly pressed down on Ingji's stomach. Pfft. Ingji finally woke up. Bei Bei, you almost crushed my stomach. Ning Shu jumped off the bed and watched Ingji fumble for the crutches at the head of the bed. Ingji's eyes were grayish-white. There was no obvious difference between the pupils and the whites of his eyes. It was as if there was a layer of haze covering his eyes. The grayish-white color looked a little scary. Ingji fumbled his way into the bathroom and started to wash his face and brush his teeth. Ning Shu sat at the door and looked at him. The things in the house were the same. Once they changed, Ingji would not be able to find them. After washing up, Ingji found some dog food from the cupboard. He poured it into a dog bowl and placed it on the floor. Then, he touched Ning Shu and patted Ning Shu's head gently. Eat. Ning Shu looked at the dog food with a complicated expression. As a single person, it was fine to eat dog food, but now that he had become a dog, he had to eat real dog food. Ning Shu started eating immediately. After all, the dog food smelled quite good. Ingji made some simple bread for breakfast. After breakfast, Ingji had to go to work as a masseuse in a blind massage shop. He had a skill to support himself. Bei, it's time to go. Ingji put a collar and leash on Ning Shu. Ning Shu didn't struggle and let Ingji put it on him. This was his job. Ingji took his crutches and put on his sunglasses. He closed the door and slowly walked to work under Ning Shu's lead. When they passed by the traffic lights, Ning Shu realized that he could only see black and white. He couldn't tell the color of the traffic lights accurately. He could only tell by looking at the people and cars. Ning Shu stopped at the intersection and guided Ingji to stop. Ingji was like a normal person, standing by the roadside and waiting for the traffic light to turn green. Ning Shu sat there with her tongue out. She saw a little kid staring at her and ignoring her. She didn't expect the little kid to come over and pull her ear. The big golden retriever looked very gentle. If it was a hound, would he dare to come over and pull her ear? Ning Shu was speechless. She hated naughty kids. Ning Shu didn't attack him. The kid was taken away by his mother. He even apologized to Ingji. Ingji squatted down and patted Ning Shu's head. Bei, you're awesome. Ning Shu's mouth twitched. Thank you for the compliment. The traffic light turned green, and the pedestrian started to walk. Ning Shu led Ingji across the road. They walked through a few streets and passed by a street garden. Finally, they arrived at the massage parlor where Ingji worked. The massage parlor wasn't small. Ingji could be considered a master here. It was more than enough for him to support himself. Ingji was waiting for customers in a private room. Ning Shu lay in an inconspicuous corner to avoid scaring the customers. When Ingji needed to go to the toilet, she had to bring him to the toilet. Ingji took out some dog snacks from his bag and gave them to Ning Shu. Then, he patted Ning Shu's head and waited for the customers to come over so he could give them a massage. Ning Shu chewed on the snacks. They tasted pretty good. They were beef-flavored. This mission was like a vacation. It was okay to be a dog. Every day, it would bring its owner to places where it should go to avoid danger. If there was no mission, there would be no mission. It wasn't bad to be a carefree dog. Ning Shu's head was on the ground. Her eyes were watery as she watched Ingji give the customers a massage. After a massage, Ingji was sweating profusely. Massage required strength and skill. In the morning, Ingji received 2 customers. Ingji received a commission based on the number of customers he received. Because a blind person couldn't see, it was more difficult to massage than a normal person. When Ingji gave the customers a massage, he was very skilled. It was as if he could see. When he had nothing to do, Ingji would find a dummy to practice. Bei, go to the toilet, said Ning Shu after Ingji washed his hands and wiped them with a handkerchief. Ning Shu got up from the ground and went to Ingji's feet. Ingji bent down and touched the belt. Ning Shu brought Ing Ji to the toilet. However, they met a masseuse at the entrance of the toilet. Ning Shu touched the masseuse's leg. The masseuse squatted down and touched Ning Shu. She smiled and said, "Are you Ning Shu?" "It's me," Ing Ji said softly. "Are you here to use the toilet? How was business this morning?" "I received 3 female customers." "It was good," said the masseuse with a faint smile on her face. She looked like a very gentle person. Chapter 1835. Ning Shu sat on the floor and looked at the masseuse. The masseuse's eyes were a little dazed, and when she spoke, she looked at Ing Ji's face. Ning Shu felt that the masseuse should be able to see a blurry shadow, unlike Ing Ji, who could not see anything. "Go ahead, I'm leaving," the masseuse said and walked away with her hands on the wall. Ing Ji stood there for a while and turned back to look at the masseuse, but he was looking in the wrong direction. Ning Shu was speechless. Ning Shu felt that Ing Ji liked the masseuse, so he reached out his paw and touched Ing Ji's leg. Only then did Ing Ji come back to his senses and was brought into the toilet by Ning Shu. As soon as they entered the toilet, Ning Shu could not help but sneeze. A dog's sense of smell was very developed. As soon as they entered the toilet, the stench was overwhelming. Ning Shu felt like he was going to faint. Inside, all the men were using the toilet. Ning Shu turned his back to Ing Ji and waited for him to finish. Then, he brought Ing Ji to the place where he worked and hid in the background. Sometimes, when a new employee came to the shop, Ing Ji would be in charge of teaching them how to massage. Therefore, Ing Ji's salary was higher than the average masseuse. Speaking of which, Ing Ji was a man in his 30s, and he was always alone. Yet, he wanted to get married. He must like the woman just now. Ning Shu saw that Ing Ji was busy massaging the customers, so he quietly opened his bag and took out some snacks. Then, he went to look for the masseuse. The masseuse was drinking water in the resting room. Ning Shu put the snacks in his mouth in front of her. The masseuse touched the snacks and put them in front of her eyes. She looked at them for a while. "Is this for me?" Ning Shu called out softly. The masseuse asked, "Did Ing Ji ask you to bring this to me?" Ning Shu whimpered. "Thank you. It's almost noon. Give this to him." The masseuse took out some bread from her bag. Ning Shu walked back with the bread in his mouth. Ing Ji was searching everywhere, probably because Ning Shu had disappeared. Ning Shu walked in front of him and handed him the bread. "Where did you steal this from? Can't you take other people's things?" Ing Ji asked Ning Shu as he touched the item in his hand to identify what it was. Ning Shu, who didn't know how to speak, was so anxious that she almost bit her own tail. Where could she go to steal things? Ning Shu opened his mouth and grabbed Ing Ji's sleeve, pulling him into the lounge. Ing Ji appeared in front of the masseuse, looking a little embarrassed. Ning Shu whimpered, and the masseuse knew that Ing Ji had arrived. She could vaguely see a blurry shadow at the door. "Did Bei Bei take something from you?" Ing Ji stood stiffly at the door. "This is for Bei Bei. It's almost noon. Eat something to fill your stomach," the masseuse, Chen Hong, said. "Do you want some water?" "I'll get you some water." No, I still have a guest." Ing Ji pulled the leash and wanted to pull Ning Shu away. Ning Shu turned around and saw the disappointment on Chen Hong's face. Then, he saw Ing Ji desperately trying to pull her away. Ning Shu was speechless. These two people were probably interested in each other. But Ing Ji was so shy that he was about to explode. He moved his hands and feet. Ning Shu brought Ing Ji back to the massage room. Ing Ji kept the bread that Chen Hong had given him in his bag, then fumbled to zip it up. It was just a piece of bread. If he didn't eat it, it wouldn't be fresh. What a man! Ning Shu lay on the ground and looked at Ing Ji. Ingji said seriously, don't look for Chen Hong in the future. Ingji's back was facing Ning Shu. Ning Shu whimpered, and Ingji turned around. Be obedient in the future. Ingji squatted down and touched Ning Shu's head. He sighed sadly. Ingji couldn't even speak properly in front of Chen Hong. What was there to be afraid of? He couldn't see her reaction anyway. Without the deceit of the eyes and the confusion of appearance, all interactions were based on feelings. Most of the time, he imagined what the other party looked like. Maybe it was a beautiful love. There was no catalyst. It seemed that these two people didn't have any reaction. If there was a reaction, it would be very slow. Ning Shu lay on the ground and didn't make a sound. Forget it, he'd better be a carefree dog. He didn't have any missions anyway. He just needed to take good care of Ingji and ensure his safety. Ning Shu closed his eyes and prepared to take a nap. He also wanted to see if he could cultivate in an animal's body. Ning Shu couldn't set up a spirit gathering array or a yang gathering array in the modern plane. He had to rely on inhaling and exhaling. Why did his tongue keep falling out uncontrollably? Other than going to the toilet and meeting Chen Hong twice in the lounge, Ingji avoided Chen Hong and avoided contact with her for the rest of the time. It would be strange if that was the case. If it was a normal person, why would he deliberately avoid people? Don't be a coward. Ingji had to work the night shift today, so he didn't get off work until 9 o'clock. Coincidentally, Chen Hong was also working the night shift today. There were many clients at night. Many people who wanted to relax after work came to the sauna, bath, and massage. With so many people, Ning Shu couldn't stay in the massage room. He lay on his stomach in the lounge and stretched his ears to listen to the situation around him. Ingji had a bell on him. If he rang the bell, Ning Shu would run over. When Chen Hong occasionally came to drink water, she would throw some food to Ning Shu. It was dog snacks. Ning Shu felt that Chen Hong was so nice to him because she loved him. Ingji's eyes couldn't see any light at all. He applied to the government for a guide dog. The training fee for a guide dog was quite high. It cost about 60 to 70,000. Although it was a government benefit, Ingji still had to pay some money. There weren't many blind people who had guide dogs. They might not be able to afford it. Moreover, the breed of guide dog must have a pure bloodline. Ning Shu was a nice guy in the shop. He wouldn't be chased away like a stray dog. The most important thing was that he understood orders and wouldn't attack people randomly. Chen Hong touched Ning Shu's head and wiped Ning Shu's ears. She said, "Why is your master like this?" Ning Shu, "Who knows? Am I very scary? Why is he avoiding me?" Ning Shu, "He can't see." Ning Shu was embarrassed. He could understand. He knew the gossip but couldn't share it with others. He couldn't tell Ingji. It felt so miserable. It was so frustrating. "Why am I telling you this?" Chen Hong sighed. She poured some water from the water dispenser. However, because she couldn't see, she pressed the button to boil water. The water splashed onto her hand. Ning Shu quickly ran out to find Ingji. He dragged Ingji to the lounge. Chen Hong's hand was red from the scalding water. The cup was broken, and the pieces were all over the floor. "What's wrong?" Ingji touched the table and wanted to go over. Chen Hong said, "It's nothing. It's just hot. Don't come over. There are pieces on the floor." Ingji stopped. His forehead was sweating. "Do you want to go to the pharmacy to buy some burn medicine?" Chapter 1836. Ingji was confused and anxious. He couldn't see, so he didn't know what was going on with Chen Hong. "I'll take you to the pharmacy to buy some medicine. Can you walk now?" Ingji asked Chen Hong. Chen Hong nodded. Then I'll have to trouble you. I'll go with you. Chen Hong felt for her crutches and walked toward Ing Ji, who was standing at the door. She touched Ing Ji's arm and said, "Please take me to buy medicine." Ing Ji stuttered, Okay. I'll hold your crutches and lead you." Ing Ji felt around and grabbed Chen Hong's crutches. Ning Shu took the two of them out of the shop and went to the pharmacy. Ing Ji and Chen Hong held crutches in their hands and followed behind Ning Shu. When they were crossing the road, Ing Ji said, "We're going to cross the road now. We need to stop for a while." Chen Hong stopped and said, "Although your eyes are more serious than ours, it's more convenient to have Bebe with you." Ing Ji nodded. Bebe is very obedient and capable. When they were waiting for the traffic light, many people stared at Ing Ji and Chen Hong, but the two of them looked normal. They didn't notice how strange the people around them were looking at them, and they didn't see them whispering and talking about them. They were forced to isolate themselves from the beauty of the world, and also from the outside world. They didn't have to care about other people's expressions. They could ignore other people's expressions because they couldn't see. When the traffic light turned green, Ning Shu took the two of them to the pharmacy across the street. Ing Ji said to the shop assistant, "Do you have burn ointment here? Please get her some burn ointment and apply some ointment on her hand." "Is it serious? Does she need to go to the hospital?" Chen Hong did not say a word at the back. She just smiled and looked at Ing Ji's blurry figure, which was almost invisible. "Please get the best burn ointment," Ing Ji emphasized. The shop assistant took the ointment and told Chen Hong how to use it. "How many times a day?" Ning Shu looked at the price of the ointment. The shop assistant didn't lie. According to the price tag, it didn't cost much. However, ointment like this only cost about 30 yuan. Even if he charged a few more yuan, he wouldn't make a lot of money. There was no point in bullying a disabled person. His conscience would hurt. Ing Ji wanted to foot the bill, but Chen Hong paid for it herself. "We're colleagues at most. I'm already very grateful that you sent me to the pharmacy. If you pay again, I'll feel bad." Ing Ji could not find a reason to refute Chen Hong, so he could only take back the money. Ning Shu sat on the ground and looked at the lonely Ing Ji from the corner of his eyes. He lifted his leg and nudged Ing Ji's leg. Ing Ji thought for a moment and said, "Well, your hand is injured, so you definitely can't go to work. How about I take you home?" "There's no need for that. My house is a little far from here. My family will come and pick me up. If you send me home, you won't be able to find your way back. Besides, Bei has never been to my house before." Chen Hong rejected Ing Ji's offer. Ing Ji was speechless. It was a little hurtful. Ning Shu did not need to look to know how upset Ing Ji was. "I'll have to trouble you to give me a ride back to the pharmacy." Chen Hong groped around and found Ning Shu. She bumped her head against Ning Shu's. "Thank you, Bei." On the way back, it was quiet. The two of them did not speak. The atmosphere was probably too awkward. Ing Ji held it in for a long time and finally asked, "Who's coming to pick you up from your family?" "My brother," Chen Hong said. Then Ing Ji could not find a topic to talk about and fell silent again. Ning Shu, who was walking in front, almost wanted to kneel down. "In any case, you should at least ask your family members when your brother will arrive. You should talk about your wound and pay more attention to not eat spicy and cold food." It was better than the awkwardness now. Ing Ji asked, "Where's your house?" "It'll take some time from here. The bus has to go through 6 stops." Chen Hong told him her home address. Ing Ji silently repeated the address a few times and memorized it. The two of them fell silent again. When they arrived at the pharmacy, Ing Ji was called to work. Ing Ji thought for a moment and said, "You should pay more attention to your rest. Take a few days off. It was a hot day, so the burns must be serious." "I know. Thank you," Chen Hong said politely. This "thank you" made Ingji feel a little bad. He waved his hand and said, "You're welcome." Ning Shu also heard Chen Hong whisper, "Idiot," very softly. Ning Shu stuck out his tongue. Wasn't he an idiot? Chen Hong's family members came to pick her up. Ingji, on the other hand, was a little absent-minded. He got off work at 9 o'clock in the evening. When he got home, he washed up a little and lay on the bed, tossing and turning without sleep. Every time he moved, the bed creaked. A dog's sense of hearing was very sensitive. Ning Shu directly covered his ears with his two front paws. "I'm not listening." Bastard chanting scriptures. Ingji kept tossing and turning. Ning Shu looked at his watch. It was already 12:01. He went to bed before 10 and had been tossing and turning until now. Ingji sat up and groped for water. Ning Shu put his head on the ground and stared at him. Actually, Ingji was quite good-looking. Many female customers came to him for massages. However, because he was blind, it was inconvenient for him to find a wife. Chen Hong had some feelings for Ingji, but Ingji kept avoiding her. Ingji liked Chen Hong too, but he was very clumsy. When two people who could not see got together, they might be able to help each other. Perhaps life would become worse. Bebe. Ingji squatted down and touched Ning Shu. Ning Shu was speechless. "Don't touch her so easily." Ingji sat beside Ning Shu and touched Ning Shu. He seemed to be asking for Ning Shu's opinion. "Bebe, do you think I should bring some fruits to visit Chen Hong tomorrow? If you agree, bark once. If you don't, bark twice. If you don't, bark 5 times, Ingji said. Ning Shu was speechless. He really knew how to make things difficult for dogs. If he didn't agree to bark 5 times, would an ordinary dog remember that it barked 5 times? If you want to go, then go. Don't cheat the dog. Ning Shu barked softly. Ingji said, "If you agree to go, then I'll go tomorrow." Ingji, who felt at ease, finally stopped tormenting. He woke up early the next morning. Before Ning Shu could wake him up, he had already woken up. He shaved in the bathroom and wore a shirt. He looked quite handsome. Ning Shu tilted his head and looked at Ingji. "Do you know how to get there?" Ingji washed his face and wiped the water off with a handkerchief. He said, "I'm going to check the bus number to Chen Hong's house." Ingji put the dog food and water in front of Ning Shu. "Bebe, we're going to a new place today. Good luck." Normally, people who could not see would not go beyond their familiar range. Otherwise, they would not be able to go home. Ning Shu barked. After breakfast, he went out with Ingji. Ingji went to the fruit shop and bought a basket of fruits. He held Ning Shu's hand with one hand and carried the fruits with the other to the bus stop. They were going to meet the parents. Chapter 1837. When Ning Shu passed by the garden in the middle of the street, he saw many dogs in the garden. There were all kinds of dogs, including poodle bears, Pomeranians, Chihuahuas, Schnauzers. Shu saw a husky. When it ran, its tongue was sticking out, and its face was blown by the wind. There was an indescribable feeling in the husky, and it ran crazily towards the other dogs. It was indeed a crazy dog. There were many people who owned dogs. For a working dog like Ning Shu, it could only act like a normal dog when it took off its uniform. Once it entered the working state, it would do its best to complete the work. It had become a conditioned reflex. When they arrived at the bus stop, Ning Shu and Ingji waited for the bus. When everyone had left, Ingji held Ning Shu's hand and asked the driver, "Can I get to Zhoushan Road?" The driver saw that Ingji was wearing sunglasses and holding a dog. He said, "No, take bus 58. Thank you." Ingji thanked him. Ning Shu brought Ingji back to the bus stop and waited for bus 58. 2 more buses passed by. Ingji kept holding the fruit basket, afraid that if he put it down, he would not be able to touch it again. When bus 58 arrived, Ning Shu quickly brought Ingji onto the bus. Because Ingji could not pay, the driver took 2 coins and put them in the fare box. Ning Shu brought Ingji to an empty seat and took a seat for himself. Ingji touched Ning Shu's head. Ning Shu noticed that Ingji's hand was trembling. It was probably because they were going to see Chen Hong. Secondly, they were going to an unfamiliar place. It was a test. Ning Shu licked his hand. Ning Shu felt that sometimes he could not control his body's instinct. She licked his dirty hand. Did Ingji wash his hands in the toilet? Ingji listened carefully to the bus stop announcement. Chen Hong said it would be 5 or 6 stops. Ingji kept counting in his heart. Ning Shu looked at the stop names flashing on the LED screen. It was easy to get to the address, Chen Hong said. Ingji's legs were shaking. He was probably nervous. After 5 or 6 stops, the driver said to Ingji, "We've arrived at Zhoushan Road. Get off." "Oh, okay, thank you." Ingji carried the fruit basket and held Ning Shu's hand as they got out of the car. "Yes, I've taken the first step in the long journey, but where should I go now?" Chen Hong's house was not so coincidental as to be at the bus stop. Now that he had alighted, he had to look for Chen Hong's house. Ingji could not see, and he could not find Chen Hong's house based on the road signs. Taking the bus was not the hardest part. The hardest part was now. Ingji wanted to hail a taxi, but with Ning Shu, the big golden retriever, standing beside him, a few taxis sped past him. "I don't want to do this business." Ning Shu looked at the road signs and pulled Ingji along. Ingji tugged at Ning Shu. "Bei, don't walk around blindly. We'll get lost." Ning Shu called out to Ingji. He dragged Ingji to the entrance of the residential area and went downstairs according to the address given by Chen Hong. Ning Shu saw that someone had come downstairs and opened the door. He quickly ran in and dragged Ingji downstairs. Bei, where is this place, Bei?" Ingji was very confused. He stumbled downstairs. Ning Shu looked at the numbers on the wall. Chen Hong's house was in an older residential area. There was no elevator, so they had to walk. On the 5th floor, Ning Shu stopped in front of Chen Hong's house. He propped himself up and pressed the doorbell. Ingji was speechless. He was confused the whole time. Now that he actually pressed the doorbell, Ingji was so nervous that he wanted to drag Ning Shu and run. He was trembling with fear. "Who is it?" Chen Hong's voice came from inside the house. Ingji was both relieved and nervous. He had found the place, but he was also inexplicably nervous. Chen Hong asked through the door, "Who are you? What's the matter?" Ingji did not say anything. Ning Shu barked and scratched the door with his paw. Chen Hong was a little surprised. She then asked, "Is it Ingji?" "Yes, it's me." Ingji stuttered. Chen Hong fumbled around and opened the door. She asked, "Why are you here?" "I'm here to see you." "Is your hand better?" Ingji asked. His face was red. Fortunately, both of them could not see, so they did not notice each other's embarrassment. "How did you get here?" Chen Hong was surprised that Ingji found this place. He had never been here before. "I came here so carelessly," Ingji said. He was completely confused. Bei was smarter than he thought. "Come in." Chen Hong's face was full of smiles. Ning Shu entered the house and brought Ingji to the sofa. Ingji used his walking stick to test the sofa. Then, he sat down. Ning Shu sat beside the sofa and stuck out his tongue. His body was covered in hair, and the only place that could dissipate heat was his tongue. It was so hot. "I brought some fruits for you." Ingji put down the fruit basket. Thank you. Chen Hong fumbled around for a cup and poured some water for Ingji. She placed the cup on the table. Drink some water. Ingji was sweating profusely. He felt for the cup and gulped down the water. Ning Shu looked at the cup. Can you give me a sip too? Chen Hong patted Ning Shu's head. Then, she looked for a bowl and poured some water for Ning Shu. I'll call my parents back. Are you going to have lunch here? Chen Hong took out her phone and called her family. Ingji stood up and quickly said, It's okay. I'm just here to take a look. You don't have to eat. I'm leaving now. Ning Shu, who was drinking water, was speechless. Ingji took his walking stick and pulled Ning Shu away. Ning Shu was lying on the ground and did not move. Ingji could not move him no matter how hard he tried. Ingji was sweating profusely. Bei bei. Ning Shu lay on the ground. Ingji wanted to drag Ning Shu away, but it was difficult. Moreover, he could not see. Chen Hong was a little disappointed. She said, Okay. Be careful. I can't see, so I won't send you out. Ning Shu, young man, you're going to be lonely for the rest of your life, bei bei. Ingji was obviously angry. He was sweating profusely. Firstly, it was because of the hot weather. Secondly, he was too nervous and embarrassed. Ning Shu lay on the ground. The collar had squeezed her face. The flesh and fur on her neck were all squeezed onto her face. Ning Shu, I can't imagine how stupid I am now, Bei Bei must be tired. You just came and want to leave. Let it rest. You should rest too, Chen Hong said. She felt for the bowl on the ground and poured some water for Ning Shu. Ingji was even more embarrassed. He said, Bei Bei is not usually like this. It's okay. Let's rest for a while. Chen Hong did not call her family. They were not even going to stay for lunch. Why would she call her family back? Ning Shu licked the water with its tongue. The two in the room did not speak. The atmosphere became awkward again. It was most frightening when the air suddenly became quiet. Chen Hong tried to find a topic. How did you get here? We took the 58 bus and then came here, Ingji said honestly. He answered all the questions. Well, I've disturbed you for so long. I should go. You take care of yourself. Ingji started to drag Ning Shu again /html/book/39/39163/indexedml. Chapter 1838. Why did he want to leave in such a hurry? Ning Shu was speechless. He deserved to be single for the rest of his life. The girl had asked him to stay for lunch and even let him meet her family, but he was scared and wanted to run away. The opportunity was fleeting. Ning Shu stepped back. He did not want to leave. Bei Bei. Ingji was about to explode. Maybe Bei Bei is still thirsty. Let me get him some water. Chen Hong felt for the bowl and poured some water for Ning Shu. Ning Shu licked the water with his tongue. Ingji's watch started to tell the time. It was already 11 p.m. It's already so late. Stay for lunch. My parents, brother, and sister-in-law are coming back soon. Chen Hong tried to persuade Ingji to stay again. This was probably the last time. If Ingji still decided to leave, there was probably no chance for this matter to be resolved. It was not like the girl had to suck up to him. Ning Shu looked at Ingji with disappointment. This was his last chance. If he could not grab it, it would be gone. Ingji hesitated for a while and said, Then I'll have to trouble you. From a human perspective, he would definitely feel uncomfortable if he rejected him again and again. It's okay. Chen Hong said in a light tone. She called her parents and asked them to buy more food when they came back in the afternoon. There were guests at home. Ingji patted Ning Shu's head and said, "You." Ingji was restless. He waited for Chen Hong's family to come back. Chen Hong's family lived together. The house was not very big. It was not easy for the family of 5 to squeeze together. There was the sound of keys opening the door. Ingji heard voices at the door and stood up nervously. A swarm of people came in. Ingji was so nervous that his whole body was shaking. He could not see and did not know what to do. "Hello, uncle and auntie." Fortunately, Ingji was wearing sunglasses. No one could see where he was looking. "Okay, have a seat." Chen Hong's father looked kind. Chen Hong's mother and sister-in-law went into the kitchen to prepare lunch. Chen Hong's father and brother sat opposite Ingji. Ning Shu was lying on the ground, leaning against Ingji's feet. "You can't see either?" Chen Hong's father asked Ingji. "Yeah, I can't see anything." "Is this dog a guide dog?" Chen Hongij looked at Ning Shu and threw a fruit to Ning Shu. "Pick it up." The fruit rolled to Ning Shu's feet. Ning Shu was speechless. "Fuck off." Ning Shu used its claws to push the fruit back, and it rolled to brother Chen Hong's feet. "This dog is quite smart." Brother Chen Hong picked up the fruit and weighed it in his hand. "Are you here to see Chen Hong?" Chen Hong's father asked. "She scalded her hand, so I came over to check on her." Ingji straightened his back and answered like a primary school student answering a teacher's question. "Just to see her." "Do you have any improper thoughts about my daughter?" Chen Hong's father asked directly. Ingji's face immediately turned red, and he stuttered. Before he could say anything, Chen Hong's father said, "Men and women should get married when they are of age. Although my daughter can't see clearly, I hope she can find someone who will treat her well, and a healthy person who can take care of each other. How can two people like you live when you can't see? If something happens, the other person can't take care of her at all." This was very straightforward. He directly said that he wouldn't let his daughter marry someone who was also visually impaired and wanted to find a normal person for his daughter. When Ingji heard this, he was basically speechless. His lips were trembling, and his face was pale. Ingji stood up abruptly. "I can treat Chen Hong well. Other than being blind, I can do everything else." Chen Hong's father shook his head. "There are many things that you can't do. You two are not suitable. Uncle, please give me a chance. I can definitely do it." Ingji's neck was red, and he tried his best to prove himself. "You are going to get married. It will be a life of daily necessities. Can you cook, wash clothes, and take Chen Hong anywhere?" Chen Hong's father shook his head. "In short, there are many inconveniences in life. I hope my daughter can be with a normal person. I can do all these. I can definitely do it. I have lived alone for so many years," Ingji said anxiously. "Living alone is different from living with two people, especially when both of you have physical inconveniences." Chen Hong's father denied again, and this made Ingji very dispirited and powerless. "How did you meet my daughter?" Chen Hong's father asked. "We are colleagues who work in a massage parlor," Ingji said. "I am a masseuse, and I get a little salary every month. In the future, when Chen Hong doesn't work, I can still support her." Ingji made a last-ditch effort to persuade Chen Hong's father with financial conditions. "I see. Actually, I don't agree with my daughter working in such a dangerous place. She will always be bullied if she can't see," Chen Hong's father said. By saying that, he wanted Chen Hong to resign and stop working. Then, the two of them would basically have no contact in the future. It seemed that Chen Hong's father was determined not to let Ingji and Chen Hong have any relationship. Ingji's face turned pale and he looked dispirited. He said reluctantly, "I have something to do at home. I want to leave first." Ning Shu stood up and brought Ing Ji to the door. Ing Ji touched the door lock and opened it to leave. "Stay for dinner before you leave," Chen Hong's brother said. "Thank you, but it's okay. I have something to do at home. I'll leave first." Ing Ji was feeling terrible. He couldn't stay for a moment longer, let alone dinner. When he went downstairs, Ing Ji's body was a little shaky. He almost fell down the stairs. Chen Hong's brother looked at Ing Ji. "It's not easy for a blind man to come so far to see his sister." Chen Hong's father said, "It's a very simple thing for ordinary people. But for him, it's a very difficult thing. Even if he does it, he will be praised. It's like a great gift. It's hard on him and hard on others." Chen Hong's brother shrugged his shoulders. "What if my sister likes him? Dad, it's not that I want to say this, but my sister can't see. If you want to find a normal person for her, a normal person might dislike her. It's okay for them to support each other. People of the same kind know that it's not easy for each other. Let's see what your sister thinks." Chen Hong's brother didn't object so strongly. "Dad, Ing Ji and I are colleagues. He came to see me and I asked him to stay for dinner." "What are you talking about?" Chen Hong was a loser. Their relationship hadn't reached that stage yet. Now, her father had come to break them up. This was a little awkward. "Didn't that kid ask me to give him a chance?" Chen Hong's father said that this was a test/html/book/39/39163/indexedml. Chapter 1839. "Brother, go and get Ing Ji back," Chen Hong said to her brother. "Ing Ji and I are not in that kind of relationship. Dad, you didn't even ask about it." They had not even had a frank conversation with each other, and her father had just rudely and violently exposed the truth. He had scared everyone away. If he left just like that, it means that he doesn't like you. If he really likes you, he will definitely come back for you. "Actually, I don't agree with you two who can't even see being together," Chen Hong's father said. "It's our daughter who wants to spend the rest of her life with someone. You can spend the rest of your life with your daughter. It's up to her to decide who she wants to be with," Chen Hong's mother said. When Ing Ji left the neighborhood, he was in a trance. Ning Shu stopped and stood by his feet. Ing Ji stood still, holding the leash. Ning Shu sat down. He did not know if Ing Ji wanted to go back or go home. Now that he was out, did he still want to go back? Based on Ning Shu's brief understanding of Ing Ji, he definitely did not have the face to run back. "Bebe, let's go back." Ing Ji's face was red from the sun. It was the time when the sun was at its fiercest. His skin was red from the sun, and his sweat glistened under the sun. "Young man, protect your skin. Even if you don't have love, don't make yourself look ugly." Ning Shu and Ing Ji took the bus home. Ing Ji was not in the right state from the beginning to the end. He relied on Ning Shu to carry him home. When Ing Ji got home, he lay on the bed and covered his head with the blanket quietly. No one knew if he was crying or mourning his love. Ning Shu lay on the bed and stuck out his tongue. Ning Shu thought that Ing Ji was just sad. After being sad, he would either pull himself together or go find Chen Hong again. In the end, he lay in bed for 2 days and did not get up. He did not even go to work. He did not have much of an appetite. Occasionally, he would get up to pour some dog food for Ning Shu. Then, he would lie on the bed again. Ning Shu was speechless. Ning Shu did not know what he wanted. He jumped off the bed to see if Ing Ji was sick. Ing Ji pushed him off the bed. "Bebe, don't make a fuss. Let me be alone." A few days of silence was enough. Ning Shu thought for a moment, pushed open the door and ran out. He closed the door behind him as he went out. Ning Shu ran out of the neighborhood and ran to the bus stop to wait for the bus. After waiting for bus 58, Ning Shu got off the bus and found a seat. Many passengers on the bus stared at Ning Shu. Fortunately, it was just a dog and did not ask her for a ticket. The weather was so hot that Ning Shu couldn't help but stick out his tongue and pant. When they arrived at Zhoushan Road, Ning Shu got off the car and walked towards Chen Hong's house. He pressed the doorbell and barked. Chen Hong opened the door. She narrowed her eyes but did not see Ying Ji's blurry figure. She only saw a dog. She asked, "Where is your owner?" Ning Shu bit her sleeve and dragged her out of the door. Chen Hong asked, "Did something happen to Ying Ji?" Chen Hong reached for the crutches at the door and held Ning Shu's hand. Ning Shu led Chen Hong to take the bus, get off the bus, and smoothly arrive at the door. Ning Shu straightened up, knocked on the door and pressed the doorbell. He even barked. As long as Ying Ji was not dead, he would be able to hear him. Ying Ji, who was lying in bed, got up and fumbled to open the door. He said, "Where did you go crazy?" "Ying Ji, what's wrong? What happened to you?" Chen Hong asked. When he heard Chen Hong's voice, Ying Ji felt that he might be dreaming. He pinched his thigh. "Ouch, it hurts." He had just gotten out of bed and had not washed his teeth. There was probably still gunk at the corner of his eyes. Although she could not see him, Ying Ji still felt that he should not appear with this face. Ying Ji suddenly slammed the door and rushed to the bathroom. He bumped into the dining table and his stomach hurt. Chen Hong was speechless. Ning Shu, so useless. Chen Hong patted Ning Shu's head and waited for Ying Ji to open the door again. Ying Ji changed his clothes, washed his face, brushed his teeth, and shaved before opening the door. "Come in and have a drink." Ying Ji's house was unfamiliar to Chen Hong. She stretched out her arms and touched Ying Ji. She touched Ying Ji's face. "You're thinner than I thought." Ying Ji's face turned red. Fortunately, he had shaved himself. Otherwise, Chen Hong would have touched his stubble. Ying Ji also reached out and touched Chen Hong's face. He touched her eyebrows, nose, and lips. Finally, he said, "You're prettier than I thought." Ning Shu watched the two of them touch each other's bones and compliment each other. The atmosphere was quite harmonious. Chen Hong sat on the sofa. Ying Ji poured a glass of water for her. "Why are you here?" "Bebe came to my house and dragged me here." "I thought something happened to you," Chen Hong said. "I'm fine." "Nothing happened to me," Ying Ji said, trying to cover it up. Ning Shu barked. Chen Hong said, "That day, my father told you that it was because he didn't understand the situation clearly. If it caused you any trouble, I apologize to you." It's fine." Ying Ji was still stubborn. Ning Shu whimpered and lay on the floor. He covered his ears with his paws. He couldn't bear to hear it. Chen Hong frowned. "I really didn't cause you any trouble." "No." Ying Ji said. Chen Hong stood up. "Since you're fine, I'm going back. Can you ask Bebe to send me back?" "I'll send you back," Ying Ji said. "Bebe is already familiar with the way to your house." "Okay, thank you," Chen Hong said with her head lowered. She looked a little disappointed. "Ning Shu, I'm so tired, okay?" Although Ning Shu didn't know how to speak, there was one thing he had to say. "You deserve to be single." Perhaps it was the uncertainty and inferiority that came with being physically disabled. Chen Hong tested Ying Ji again and again, but Ying Ji kept retreating. Although he said some firm words in front of Chen Hong's father, he hid in the house and didn't do anything. Ning Shu led the two of them out of the house. They didn't go to the bus station immediately. Instead, they wandered around the quiet garden, one round after another. Ying Ji felt that something was wrong. "Bebe, why haven't we reached the bus station yet?" It felt like they had walked a long, long way. Chen Hong had never been to this place, so she wasn't sure about the route. Hearing Ying Ji's words, she was very disappointed. They didn't feel like they had walked for a long time. Ning Shu couldn't help but roll his eyes. Perhaps they would have to depend on each other in the future. Ying Ji's road to being single was a little difficult. Most importantly, he was a block of wood. Although he wasn't a bad person, it was still difficult for him to find a girlfriend, or even a life partner. Dogs didn't live long. A working dog like Ning Shu worked for 11 or 12 years. /HTML/book/39/39163/indexedmal. Chapter 1840. When the working dog reached the end of its working life, the government would take the guide dog back. However, the owner could also apply to keep the guide dog by his side for life. The lifespan of a dog could not be compared to that of a human. After interacting with each other for a long time, it would not be easy to accept the other party leaving. Is Bebe lost? Ying Ji asked anxiously. Ning Shu barked helplessly and went to the bus stop to wait for the bus. When they got on the bus 58, Ying Ji led two people onto the bus and gave them the fare. Ning Shu saw that there were seats available, and someone even let them sit, so he led the two over. Ying Ji found an empty seat and said to Chen Hong, "You can sit here." Chen Hong sat down and expressed her gratitude. The two were silent again. After 6 stops, they arrived at the bus stop and went back to Chen Hong's house. "Do you want to come in?" Chen Hong asked Ying Ji. Ning Shu did not wait for Ying Ji to answer and went into the house first. "Oh my God, I'm so tired." Ning Shu collapsed on the ground. Ying Ji had no choice but to say, "Sorry to disturb you." Ying Ji was dawdling, but if he suddenly became a bossy CEO, he would not be Ying Ji. "Is your family not home?" Ying Ji saw that the house was quiet. "They have all gone to work." Chen Hong poured a glass of water for Ying Ji and Ning Shu. Ning Shu licked the water with his tongue. He felt that Chen Hong was a good person. It would be good if the two of them could be together. Although they could not see, when they touched each other, the feeling was better with the eyes. Ignoring the beauty and ugliness, all that was left was the feeling in his heart. "Your father said that you are not going to work anymore. Is that true?" Ying Ji asked. He really could not hear Chen Hong's voice in the future. Chen Hong's voice was the most beautiful voice he had ever heard. "I won't quit. It was not easy to find a suitable job. Although I can't see, I can earn a living." Chen Hong shook her head and said. Ying Ji suddenly broke into a smile. He was like the silly son of a landlord. Ying Ji, who was depressed a few days ago, suddenly looked radiant. "That's good." Ying Ji grinned and said, "Chen Hong, how about we go out together? I like you." "Sure." Chen Hong smiled and agreed readily, leaving Ying Ji a little dumbfounded. "You agree?" Ying Ji asked uncertainly. "Agreed," Chen Hong said. Ever since the two of them had confirmed their relationship, Ying Ji had been walking with a spring in his step, as if he was about to fly. His energy was inexhaustible, and he worked especially hard at work. Once he got off work, he would send Chen Hong home. Chen Hong's family did not object to their relationship. Ying Ji was single and had no family. If the two of them really got married, Chen Hong would have no mother-in-law to take care of. She wasn't worried that her husband's family would despise her. Other than the fact that she couldn't see, everything else was fine. Sometimes, after sending Chen Hong home, Chen Hong's family would ask Ying Ji to stay for dinner or something. It could be said that they were slowly starting to accept Ying Ji as a person. The relationship between the two of them was the faintest love that Ning Shu had ever seen, like plain water. They did not go to the cinema. Usually, Ning Shu would take them shopping in the garden in the middle of the street. Ying Ji did romantic things to Chen Hong, not buying flowers, but constantly buying food. The food was different every day. Sometimes, Ingji would cook some dark cuisine himself. However, he was always in a hurry. Also, it was dangerous to turn on the gas. Chen Hong asked him not to cook. Not only did the food not taste good, it was also dangerous. It was good to cook some frozen food. Ning Shu also enjoyed it. He felt that he had gained 2 rounds of weight. Chen Hong's family treated Ingji as one of their own. Sometimes, Chen Hong's mother would buy some food and stuff it in the fridge. If there was something delicious at home, she would also send a portion to Ingji. Naturally, the two of them got married. When they got married, Ning Shu's neck was hung with a beautiful flower wreath, leading the two of them in front. Safe and sound, they got married with the blessings of their relatives and friends. At night, Ning Shu lowered his head. He did not want to listen to the movements in the house. I understand. The bed creaked. It would not be long before Chen Hong got pregnant and gave birth to a baby. After they got married, with Chen Hong as the mistress of the house became much warmer. Although Chen Hong could not see, she would occasionally decorate the house. The two of them went to work together and went home together. They went to the supermarket near the house to buy things. Of course, Ning Shu was the guide. Every time they went to the supermarket, they would go to the place that sold dog food first. The beef was delicious. In fact, the dog food tasted quite good. Eating the dog food in the bowl, they were forced to eat the dog food of Shi and his wife. Although the two of them could not see, their days were still very enjoyable. Although they could not see, they touched each other. Touching and talking were useful. Skin-to-skin contact was better than 1,000 words. The two of them were gentle people. They did not quarrel much in life. More often than not, they helped each other. It was a rare warmth. Ning Shu ate the dog food. He was a little puzzled. Was the world so simple? She was here for a vacation and was going to be a carefree guide dog, watching her owners being lovey-dovey. After half a year of marriage, Chen Hong got pregnant. It was because Chen Hong felt very uncomfortable. Sometimes, it was as if she had anemia and felt dizzy. She went to the hospital and was told that she was pregnant. Once Chen Hong got pregnant, she quit her job. When she was working, she would go in and out of the sauna. The temperature inside was very high. It was not good for the development of the fetus. Ingji was very happy that he was going to be a father. Other than working, he accompanied Chen Hong every day. He had a silly smile on his face all day. It made Ning Shu's hair stand on end. After knowing that her daughter was pregnant, Chen Hong's mother took Chen Hong back to her parents' house. Since she could not see, it would be dangerous if she got hurt. So, Ingji went to the Yu family's house every day and slept on the floor. Chen Hong's family was not very well off. There were 2 elders and her son and daughter-in-law living under one roof. There were no extra rooms. Ingji did not care. He slept on the floor and sofa every day. He took out some money and gave it to his mother-in-law so that she could buy whatever she wanted. Touching his wife's belly, which was getting bigger and bigger, Ingji's smile reached his ears. Since Chen Hong got pregnant, Ning Shu did not go near her. It was because dogs and cats had a parasite in their bodies. It might not be good for the fetus. It was a happy scene, but Ning Shu had an indescribable anxiety and uneasiness in his heart. He did not want to go near Chen Hong. Every time he saw Ingji smile like a 200-pound fatty, the uneasiness in Ning Shu's heart grew stronger. Sometimes, the hair on her body would stand on end uncontrollably. It was a premonition of danger. /HTML/book/39/39163/indexedmal. Chapter 1841. Ning Shu felt uncomfortable. He thought that there was something wrong with Ing Ji and Chen Hong's child, so Ning Shu paid attention to Chen Hong every day, worried that something might happen to her. Ning Shu felt that if something happened to Chen Hong and the child, Ing Ji would definitely go crazy. Ning Shu vaguely felt that this mission was more or less about Chen Hong and the child. The target of the mission should be Ing Ji. Ning Shu felt that she was in a state of restlessness every day. Her body, which had gained a lot of weight previously, had lost weight again. Every day, Ning Shu would recite an incantation in her heart to calm herself down. Other than bringing Ing Ji to work every day, Ning Shu stared at Chen Hong every day. He watched as Chen Hong's belly bulged day by day. Please don't let anything happen to her. As her belly grew bigger, Chen Hong also reduced her activities to prevent her belly from bumping into sharp objects, such as the tip of a table. Ning Shu would occasionally release his mental strength to check on the child in Chen Hong's belly. It was very healthy and had regular facial features. Sometimes, it would open its eyes. Ning Shu saw that the child's pupils were normal. It was a normal little girl. Very good. In fact, Chen Hong was a little worried that her child would be blind like her and her husband. Ing Ji did not care too much. As long as it was his child, even if it could not see, it was still his child. Although Ing Ji said that, Ning Shu could still feel Ing Ji's worry. He was worried about his child. They went to the hospital for an ultrasound. The doctor said that the child was very healthy, which made Chen Hong and Ing Ji slightly relieved. Ning Shu lay on the ground, his eyes fixed on Chen Hong. He felt really tired. Previously, he was worried sick about these two people. Now, he still had to worry about the child in her belly. As a dog, she had to worry so much. She was really a failure. In order to avoid danger, Chen Hong was sent to the hospital when she was due and stayed there. Of course, money was flowing out. These years, Ing Ji had some savings, but for the sake of his child and wife's health, Ing Ji took out his previous money. Ning Shu looked at Ing Ji. Although Ing Ji wasn't very rich, it was already very good that he could do this. It showed that Ing Ji really cherished Chen Hong. Moreover, it was not easy for Ing Ji to earn money. Since he could not see, it was even more difficult for a normal person. After staying in the hospital for 2 days, Chen Hong was about to give birth. Ing Ji sat at the entrance of the delivery room. His hands and legs were shaking. Ning Shu sat on the ground and looked at the door of the operating room. He released his spiritual force to check the situation inside and hoped that everything would go well. Ing Ji was so nervous that he kept pulling Ning Shu's hair. Ning Shu was speechless. Ing Ji stood at the entrance of the delivery room. Every day felt like a year. He kept asking Ning Shu, "Will Bebe and the rest be alright?" Bebe. Ning Shu let out a soft whimper. It would definitely be fine. When the door to the delivery room opened, Ing Ji stood up in a panic. "How is my wife?" "She gave birth safely." "She gave birth to a daughter," the nurse said. "The mother will be pushed to the ward later. You can go and take a look." "Thank you." Ing Ji smiled. Ning Shu brought Ing Ji to the ward. There were some people around the bed. "Ing Ji, come and take a look. The little princess is very beautiful," Chen Hong's mother said to Ing Ji. Ing Ji couldn't see. He wanted to touch his daughter, but he was afraid that he would hurt her. He wanted to hug her, but he was afraid that he wouldn't hug her properly. Anyway, he didn't know what to do. Ning Shu looked at the baby in the crib. Her face was rosy. She was indeed very beautiful. After a long time, her eyebrows would grow and she would be even more adorable. Ing Ji sat by the bed and held Chen Hong's hand. Chen Hong's mother went back to prepare food for her daughter. She couldn't eat casually during confinement. Now, Ing Ji looked like everything was fine with a daughter. He held the baby carefully and was immersed in a bubble of happiness. He always forgot to feed her dog food. He was starving. Yingji was still in a state of excitement. His enthusiasm had not cooled down. No one could stop his goal of becoming a stay-at-home dad. Yingji learned how to make milk powder and change diapers. Because he couldn't see, he was afraid that he would hurt the baby. He kept learning how to use it from the nurse and memorized the steps. Ningxu was speechless. "Can you give me some dog food?" Every time, Chen Hong would get some dog food from the drawer for Ningxu so that Ningxu wouldn't starve. Sure enough, men liked the new and got tired of the old. Now, his head was full of his daughter. He didn't even feed the dog. He pulled her hair and pinched her ears and said that he had a daughter. Who doesn't have a daughter? My daughters are all over the world, Ningxu thought. Although the baby was born, Ningxu's heart was still hanging. He was still anxious. After staying in the hospital for a week, Chen Hong was discharged. She went back to Yingji's home. After all, now that the baby was born, she couldn't stay at her father-in-law's house. Moreover, the baby was too noisy and affected the rest of the family. Yingji couldn't bring the baby to stay at his father-in-law's house. Chen Hong's mother decided to follow her daughter home. She would take care of her daughter until she was out of confinement or when the baby was a little older. The two families weren't far from each other, so they could visit each other at any time. Yingji was grateful for his mother-in-law's help. He took out some extra money and asked Chen Hong's mother to buy some food for Chen Hong to eat to nourish her body. Yingji also needed to go to work. Now that he had a wife and a child to feed, he had to work harder to earn more money. With the baby, the house was chaotic and lively. Sometimes, the baby would cry in the middle of the night. Ningxu could hear Yingji fumbling to get out of bed to comfort the baby. Fortunately, with his mother-in-law's help, the couple was not at a loss. There was a kind of bliss that came from daily necessities: rice, oil, salt, soy sauce, vinegar, and tea. The baby was born safely. Ningxu was relieved. It was best that the mother and daughter were safe. Next time, she would not accept such missions. There was no plot, no mission, and no wish. She did not know what the client wanted. Even if she had met the dog in advance, she would not have known what the client wanted. In order to save money for the baby's milk powder, Ningxu stopped buying snacks for the dog. Yingji was worried that Ningxu was in a bad mood, so he bought some snacks from time to time. He did not buy them as frequently as before. Ningxu was speechless. Do I look that greedy? Ningxu did not eat the snacks anymore. He usually ate dog food, and dog food was not cheap. It was difficult for the family to rely on Yingji alone. Yingji saw that Ningxu did not want to eat the snacks. He patted Ningxu's head and said, "Bebe is so sensible." The two families helped each other, and it was harmonious. The baby grew up day by day. Sometimes, when the baby cried, Yingji put the baby in the basket and let Ningxu carry it around the house. The baby giggled in the basket. Ningxu was speechless. She was so tired. She could totally imagine that she would become this child's toy in the future. XHTML. Chapter 1842. Pulling her fur, sleeping on her, hugging her, and letting her do whatever she wanted, Ningxu's heart was bitter. Especially when the child was old enough to crawl, it was Ningxu's nightmare. Thinking about it, she had been in this world for quite some time. Was it time for her to leave? A dog's annual lifespan was not long. The longer she stayed, the shorter the dog's lifespan. However, her mission seemed to have not been completed, and 2333 did not inform her to leave. So, there must be something else. What could it be? Ningxu was a little worried. Who would be in trouble? Yingji, Chen Hong, and the child, or Bei. Everything was unknown, and he could not predict what would happen in the future. Every day, Ning Shu's job was to guide Ingji to work. When he returned home, he would squat beside the baby's bed and look after the child. Occasionally, he would use his paws to pat the toys on the bed to play with the child. The child would babble and giggle. After 2 months of growth, the child's skin was snow white, and his eyes were rolling. It was a beautiful child. Ingji was not ugly, and Chenhong had good facial features. Both of them would be good-looking. Unfortunately, the parents could not see what their child looked like. They could only touch the child to feel it. Chenhong and Ingji did not dare to leave a single fingernail, for fear that they would not be able to see it and accidentally scratch the child. He felt that this little girl was really lucky. Not every parent could love their child, and there was no rule that every parent had to love their child. Especially when the child's crying was very annoying, and he was not as obedient as an adult. Ingji and Chenhong loved this little princess very much. Ning Shu shook the baby's bed, and his nose twitched. He seemed to have smelled something, a very faint smell of gas. Ingji and his wife were eating with Chenhong's mother. Ning Shu suspected that the gas had leaked, and he quickly went to the kitchen to see if the gas tank had leaked. Ning Shu put his nose around the tank and sniffed. The smell was even stronger. Ning Shu quickly barked at the gas tank. "What's wrong, baby?" Ingji fumbled his way into the kitchen. The smell of natural gas was stronger. Ingji suddenly said, "Mom, did you not turn off the gas properly?" Chenhong's mother immediately went into the kitchen. Only then did she remember, "I'm stewing soup in the pot. Turn off the gas first." Ning Shu shouted. Chenhong's mother tightened the screws and opened the window. A house like this was a hole. Once there was a gas leak, it would be terrible. If there was another fire, the whole house would explode and everything in the house would be destroyed. It would be terrible if something happened to people. He always felt that Chenhong's mother's memory was deteriorating. She was a little forgetful when doing things. Often, when she went out to buy things, she would forget what she wanted to buy and then go out again. This wasn't the first time this had happened. "Sigh, I'm getting old. I'll be more careful next time," Chenhong's mother said, a little embarrassed. "Then it must be because taking care of the children is too tiring. Take a break. If you want to eat anything, I can buy it outside. You don't have to cook every day and take care of the children," Ingji said. "I was indeed a little too busy," Chenhong's mother said. Fortunately, nothing happened. Fortunately, Ingji didn't smoke. If he opened the fire, there would definitely be problems. Ingji fumbled around and opened all the windows in the house. He wanted to get rid of the smell and then look at his daughter. "Then let's not open the fire in the future," Chenhong said. Ning Shu sighed in his heart. This was the difficulty of two blind people walking together. However, if it were a normal person taking care of a blind person all the time, the normal person would feel that it was a burden. They wouldn't be like Ingji and Chenhong, who supported and cared for each other. Ning Shu looked at the pale face of Chenhong's mother. Because of the mistake, she looked a little uncomfortable and apologetic. She was getting old. Her body might not be able to take care of her niece. Ingji noticed it too. He asked Chenhong's mother not to open the fire to cook and just help take care of her daughter every day. Chenhong's mother agreed readily. She said that if she opened the fire again, she would be more careful and close the door tightly. Ning Shu decided that after sending Ingji to work every day, she would go home to take care of the situation at home. When Ingji was about to get off work, she would go and fetch him. Ingji was having trouble going to the toilet. It was fine to ask someone else to help. Ning Shu felt that the orphan and widow at home were in more danger. Although he didn't know what would happen, it was definitely not a simple matter for a dog to give up its soul. Ning Shu sent Ingji to the massage parlor. Then, she called out to Ingji and prepared to go home. Ingji patted the head of the snack. Bei, you're awesome. Thank you, Bei. Ingji took out the dog snacks from his bag and tore open the bag to give to Ningshu. It was a beef-flavored bone. Ningshu felt that she loved the taste of dog food and snacks. Ningshu walked home slowly. When she passed by the garden in the middle of the street, a husky rushed towards her. Its eyes were wide open, and its tongue was sticking out like waves in the wind. Get lost, stupid dog. Ningshu also rushed towards it and sent it flying with a kick. Then, she ran away and disappeared. The husky was speechless. It had met a new companion, and this companion had always been noble and cold. Seeing that it was a dog without an owner, it wanted to come over and get closer. In the end, it was kicked far away. The husky quickly got up and was about to chase after Ningshu, but its owner grabbed its leash and dragged it away. Ningshu returned home and knocked on the door, but no one opened it. Ningshu barked loudly, but there was no movement inside. She lay on the ground and listened through the crack in the door. If there was the sound of a child's breathing or people moving around, there must be someone in the house. Moreover, Chenhong usually didn't bring the child out, because it would hurt the child if he couldn't see. At this time, Chenhong's mother should be out to buy groceries or other things. She barked for so long, but no one opened the door. When Ningshu lay on the ground, her nose smelled the smell of natural gas. It was leaking again, and the door was still open. What about the people in the house? What about Chenhong and the child? The door was locked, so Ningshu couldn't get in. Without hesitation, she ran to find Ingji. Ingji was giving someone a massage. Ningshu opened her mouth and pulled his trousers out. Bei, stop it. I'm working. Ningshu suddenly barged in, scaring Ingji's customers. Ningshu anxiously dragged Ingji out, barking loudly. Did something happen? Ingji asked. Ningshu barked. Ingji thought that recently, Ningshu often came home. Something must have happened at home. XHTML. Chapter 1843. Thinking that something might have happened at home, Ingji couldn't care less about his work. He grabbed his crutches and held Ningshu's hand as they walked out of the door. However, as they walked in a hurry, they bumped into something and fell to the ground. Ingji hurriedly got up from the ground and almost ran home. At the door, he met Chenhong's mother, who was returning home from shopping. Chenhong's mother was surprised to see Ingji. Why are you back? Aren't you supposed to be at work? Bei dragged me back here. Did something happen at home? Ingji was sweating profusely from running. Nothing. Chenhong's mother opened the door as she spoke. Ningshu rushed into the house and saw Chenhong lying on the ground. The child in the cradle looked a little pale. It was probably gas poisoning. Ningshu barked loudly. When Ingji entered the house, he smelled natural gas. Mom, you didn't turn off the gas. Don't light the fire. Open the window. Ingji heard Ningshu's frantic barking and rushed into the bedroom. However, he tripped and fell to the ground. He quickly got up and walked into the house with his crutches. Chenhong, my daughter. Chenhong's mother opened the kitchen window and ran into the house. When she saw her daughter unconscious, she immediately cried out. Her body was on the verge of collapsing and she fainted with a thud. Ingji couldn't see. Now that both of them had fainted, he quickly took out his phone to call 120. Ningshu held the child's clothes in his mouth and carried the child out of the house. The house was filled with the smell of natural gas. It was probably a little poisonous. Adults had good immunity, but children couldn't. Ingji took out his phone and called someone randomly. Then, he called for help and asked someone to call 120. His child and wife were in trouble. Ningshu had no choice. He ran across the street and knocked on the neighbor's door. He even barked, hoping that the neighbor was home. The person who opened the door was a middle-aged woman with curly hair. When she opened the door, she shouted angrily, "Damn dog, what are you doing? You keep barking every day. It's so annoying." Ning Shu grabbed her skirt and pulled her over. Ning Shu's action scared the woman, but when she saw the child in the corridor, she immediately asked, "What's going on?" Then, he entered the room and saw two people unconscious on the ground. Ingji was panicking as he pressed on his phone. His phone accidentally fell to the ground. Ingji squatted down and crawled around to feel for it. "What's going on?" When Ingji heard the woman's voice, he hurriedly begged, "Big sis, help me make a call. My wife and child are suffering from gas poisoning." "Oh, okay. The woman was also frightened. She took out her phone and quickly dialed 120. When she was on the phone, she kept urging the other side to hurry up. There were children, women, and children here. Now their lives were in danger. If something happened, would they be able to take responsibility? "Be quick. I've already called. The ambulance should be here soon," the woman said. "What else do you need my help with?" "Thank you, big sister." Ingji scratched his head anxiously. She squatted down and hugged Shenhong as tears streamed down her face. "I'll go downstairs and see if the ambulance is here." The woman hurriedly ran downstairs. Ning Shu leaned his head on the child's chest and listened to his heartbeat. His face was pale, and his heartbeat was weak. If he was deprived of oxygen for a long time, it would cause irreversible damage to his brain. The ambulance arrived, and the medical staff carried 2 stretchers. They lifted the 2 adults onto the stretchers and put them on ventilators. The nurse carried the child into the ambulance. Ingji got into the ambulance. Because the space was not big, Ning Shu, the big golden retriever, was not allowed to get into the ambulance. Ning Shu pulled the woman's skirt. The woman immediately said, "Don't pull, I'll go and take a look." "Thank you, big sis." Ingji said to the woman in the ambulance. "Bei, go home." Ning Shu shouted. The door closed, and the ambulance screamed away. Ning Shu looked at the ambulance that was far away. He stuck his tongue out and gasped for breath. Ning Shu turned and went home. The smell in the house was almost gone. Fortunately, there was no fire. Otherwise, the whole house would have exploded and burned. Ning Shu suspected that Chen Hong's mother was developing Alzheimer's. Otherwise, why would she forget to turn off the gas when she went out? If Ingji did not come back and she lit the fire, he could almost imagine the consequences. She could be injured and die. Chen Hong and the child could also be in trouble. Ning Shu collapsed to the ground. He felt weak all over. He did not know what was going on. Had Ingji arrived at the hospital? Ning Shu stuck his tongue out and waited for the news. However, Ingji did not come home for the whole night. Ning Shu waited for the whole night. Seeing Ingji's phone on the ground, Ning Shu struggled to open the phone with his paws. Ingji's phone was an old man's phone. His paws did not listen to him. He found the phone number of Ingji's brother-in-law, Chen Hong's brother. Ning Shu quickly dialed it. When the call went through, he immediately barked twice. "Is that Bei?" Chen Hong's brother was surprised. Then he said, "Ingji, your dog is calling you." Then, Ning Shu heard Ingji's voice. Bei, Ingji's voice sounded like he was crying. He could not speak clearly as if there was phlegm in his throat. This made Ning Shu anxious. What happened? Chen Hong and the child are fine. However, there is a slight poison. You stay at home. The dog food is in the cupboard. You can get it yourself. Stay at home. Ingji treated Ning Shu as if he was a human being. Ning Shu barked twice. Fortunately, nothing happened. The gas was poisoned. He did not know if there would be any sequelae. After worrying for the whole night, Ning Shu felt hungry. The stone in his heart had been removed. He opened the cupboard and took out several bags of dog food. Ning Shu decided to eat to his heart's content. Because of the child, he had to stay in the hospital for a while to undergo various tests. Chen Hong's brother came over to get some clothes to change into and brought Ning Shu to the hospital. Ning Shu ran to Yingji's feet. When he felt Ning Shu, Yingji squatted down and hugged Ning Shu. He buried his head in Ning Shu's body. Then, his tears wet Ning Shu's fluffy fur. Ning Shu let Yingji hug him. He let Yingji cry as much as he wanted. Her fur had turned into tufts of fluffy fur. Ning Shu entered the ward and saw that Chen Hong's face was pale. She had already woken up. However, the child was still under intensive care. They said that his life was no longer in danger. However, they did not know if there would be any sequelae. Therefore, more tests were needed. Bei. Chen Hong saw Ning Shu beside the bed. She reached out and touched Ning Shu's head. "Thank you, Bei. Bei is great." Chen Hong knew what had happened. She looked at Ning Shu with a gentle and grateful gaze. Ning Shu whimpered softly. XHTML. Chapter 1844. Chen Hong was fine. She had just fainted from inhaling gas. Chen Hong's mother, who had fainted as well, had woken up. Perhaps she had been frightened, but she was still in shock. The doctor told Chen Hong's family that Chen Hong's mother might have mild Alzheimer's disease. The symptoms were not obvious. It was normal for old people to have a bad memory, but they had to be wary of Alzheimer's disease. When Chen Hong's family heard that she might have Alzheimer's disease, their faces turned pale. It was mild now, but if it got serious, she might even forget her own name, husband, and children. Chen Hong's brother apologized to Yingji. "We didn't know that Mom would be like this. If we knew, we wouldn't have let her take care of sister and the child." Yingji was very angry at first. He told his mother-in-law not to open the fire. Even if she wanted to, she had to wait until there were more people in the house. In the end, this cute mother-in-law turned on the gas and cooked something. She didn't turn it off properly and even forgot to turn it off. She ran out to buy things. The consequences were very serious. Yingji didn't dare to imagine. However, his mother-in-law had come to take care of his wife and child. Now that the child and wife were fine, she had moved over to take care of her daughter and granddaughter out of kindness. It was not good to blame her now. Everyone didn't know about this. Fortunately, we found out early. Yingji was still scared when he thought about it. If Bei hadn't gone home and found out about this, something might have happened. Even the house might have been burned down. His child, wife, and mother-in-law might have died. "My mother can't take care of the child anymore. He's sick now," Chen Hong's brother said with a sigh. Yingji pursed his lips. Should he stop working and wait until the child was older? If he really let Chen Hong take care of the child alone, she definitely couldn't take care of it. If something like this happened again, Yingji felt that his heart might have problems. He couldn't take it anymore. Then he should resign and be a stay-at-home dad. He should wait until the child was 2 or 3 years old and could walk. It was too difficult to raise a child. Yingji told Chen Hong his thoughts. Chen Hong shook her head and disagreed. "I can take care of the child. Don't stop working. The family's expenses are high. I don't feel safe leaving you alone," Yingji said. Anyway, the two of them discussed and didn't reach a consensus. Yingji was afraid that something like yesterday would happen again. He was scared out of his wits, but how could a little salary compare to a person's life? In the past, he basically didn't spend money. Other than eating and drinking for himself and buying some dog food for Bei, he had saved up quite a bit of money over the years. Moreover, Ingji deeply felt that he could not afford to lose his wife and child. From this marriage, he felt that marriage was not easy, especially since he could not see. Without Chen Hong, he would basically be single for the rest of his life. Not to mention that the child had his blood running through his veins. Because it was not easy, he treasured it even more. After a series of examinations, the child did not have any obvious injuries, but the doctor suggested that he come to the hospital for a checkup every once in a while. The most likely cause was brain damage. When the couple heard this, their hearts twitched. They prayed that their child would grow up healthily. After hearing the doctor's words, Ingji was even more determined to stay at home and raise the child before going out to work. Chen Hong was worried about the family's expenses. Including the dog, the family of 4 was crying piteously for food. By the time they were discharged from the hospital, the two of them had not discussed whether Ingji should go to work or stay at home to help Chen Hong take care of the children. When they returned home, the couple carried the child and carried the gifts to the neighbor across the street to thank her for saving their lives. Although the woman across the street seemed difficult to get along with, she was noisy and long-winded. She helped them in an emergency and even made the child recognize a godparent. They were all neighbors and could look out for each other. Chen Hong's mother felt guilty. She called Chen Hong and said that she was muddle-headed and could not take care of the child. Chen Hong asked her mother to rest well. She did not tell her mother that she had mild Alzheimer's disease. Everyone in the family kept this from her. Chen Hong's mother only thought that she was old and had a bad memory. Ingji bought Ning Shu a big bag of dog snacks as a reward for Ning Shu. To be honest, Ning Shu was very happy when she saw the bag of snacks. This bag was enough for her to eat for a long time. The dog food also tasted very good. At least it was much better than garbage. Moreover, the dog food was quite clean. Biscuits were more expensive than what humans ate. Ha 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 ha, Ning Shu was very happy. She stuck out her tongue and licked Ingji's hand. She wagged her tail at the same time. It was good to be able to use her cuteness in exchange for food. Ingji and his wife treated Ning Shu as a family member and not just a simple guide dog. Her status now was only slightly lower than the child's. Ning Shu stuck out her tongue and let out a long sigh. She rested her head on the ground. This matter was solved. She did not know what else would happen. Ning Shu felt that there should be a fire in the plot. Ingji's wife, child, and mother-in-law might all be in trouble. She could imagine how big of a blow this would be to Ingji. Ning Shu did not know the plot. She could only guess. In fact, doing this kind of task was not easy at all. She was a dog and had to worry about people. Moreover, because she was in the body of a dog, the language barrier was very limiting. Ning Shu did not feel like she was on vacation at all. She did not know how many times she had run. She ran as fast as she could. This dog is so tired. Ha ha ha, you have to compensate me for my mental damage. Ning Shu chewed on the beef-flavored bone while looking at the child in the crib. The child sucked on her thumb. She looked at the toys hanging on the crib. There were all kinds of colorful toys. She even reached out to grab them. Looking at her, the child should be healthy. Her head was not hurt. Since Ning Shu fell in love, got married, and had a child. Now, the child was more than 3 months old. Ning Shu had been in this world for a long time. She did not know if there was something that prevented her from leaving this world. If that was really the case, Ning Shu wanted to cry for Ingji. It was really full of misfortunes. From the time Chen Hong was pregnant to the time she gave birth, Ning Shu had been in a constant state of uneasiness. This should be the animal's instinct to sense danger. Now that they had survived a big disaster, Ning Shu was relieved. However, she could not tell what she was feeling. She felt that something bad was going to happen. She wished that she was overthinking. After surviving a disaster, there would be good fortune in the future. Moreover, there were two people taking care of a child now. Ingji did not have to go to work. Ning Shu stayed at home every day to help look after the child. If there was anything unusual in the house or if there was a gas leak, Ning Shu would be able to sense it immediately. To avoid any danger. Chapter 1845. After the gas leak incident, Ingji and his wife had become very careful. He touched Ning Shu's head and said, "If anything happens, Bei, you must inform us immediately." Ingji also found a plumber and electrician to check all the electrical circuits in the house in case there were any safety hazards. He also checked the floor-to-ceiling windows carefully. With a child, Ingji had to be very careful. He could not see, so he could not keep an eye on the child all the time. It was not easy to raise a child. Ingji felt that being a stay-at-home dad was even more difficult than going to work. When the child threw a tantrum, it was like a demon. The veins on his forehead were constantly bulging, and he had to be patient to coax the child. The child could not speak, so he kept crying to express what he wanted. It was very annoying. Ning Shu sometimes could not stand the sound of the demon's voice and covered his ears with his paws. Ning Shu felt that he was not a person who liked children. Ning Shu thought that something would happen, so he was on guard. A person's life could be strong, but it could also be weak. A little injury could cause a person to lose their life. 2333's voice sounded in Ning Shu's mind. Mission completed. Do you want to leave the mission world? Ning Shu let out a long breath. He was not careful and his tongue slipped out again. Leave. The biggest crisis was probably over. Ning Shu felt dizzy and returned to the system space. Once he was back, Ning Shu could not help but stretch. His soul was trapped in a small body. It was very uncomfortable. Ning Shu lay down on the sofa and felt very comfortable. The system space was rippling with the smell of agarwood. When he breathed it into his soul, it calmed him down. Ning Shu stretched his limbs. It was so comfortable. There was basically no reward for this mission. It was just a little bit of soul power, no attribute points, no points. Ning Shu absorbed the soul that Bei gave him. It was almost nothing. Even animals can give their souls. Ning Shu exclaimed. 2333 said, any creature with life, soul, and emotions can offer their soul. The reward for this quest is too low, and it's a dog. No one would want to do it. You said you wanted to do something easier, so I accepted it for you. 2333 was still trying to be nice to Ning Shu. Ning Shu. Thank you. Actually, this mission isn't that hard. It's just that there was a fire in his house. His mother-in-law was severely burned and died on the spot. His wife and child were lying on the hospital bed. The child passed away in the end. 2333 said. Ning Shu. That's just hindsight. Do I need you to tell me that? Although the harvest was small, it was just a relaxing trip. Although it was a dog, there was not much danger. It was no wonder that no one had accepted this mission. Firstly, the reward was too little. Secondly, there was no way to learn the plot and the mission from a dog. He was simply caught at a loss. Ning Shu hugged the pillow and opened the chat system. Her chat system was really lively now. There were always people looking for her. For example, people from the auction house kept testing her. There were also some shops in the city of Water who wanted to invite her for a meal. It was probably because of what happened at the auction house that many people couldn't sleep at night. It was good that they were in awe. The person behind the auction house didn't show up. Ning Shu didn't plan to release the auction house. Ding dong. Someone sent a message. She opened it and saw that it was from Mei Ziqing. Mei Ziqing sent a voice message. Her voice was very anxious. Ning Shu, Little Fire was kidnapped by Pan Chen. I don't know how it is now. Ning Shu frowned. Last time, she met that stubborn rock. Pan Chen was already plotting against Little Fire. Now, it was really kidnapped. Mei Ziqing, Ning Shu, Mei Ziqing, Ning Shu, Mei Ziqing. In general, fighting was forbidden in the Mission Enforcer City. The Mission Enforcers wouldn't fight. They were just afraid that Little Fire wouldn't be able to resist the coaxing and would be kidnapped. Ning Shu, what if they found the wrong person? Mei Ziqing, Ning Shu couldn't help but facepalm. It wasn't easy to raise a child. Although Little Fire was the size of an adult, its mind was that of a child. It was like a giant baby. Ning Shu, Pan Chen said that he wanted to take Little Fire to roam around. Who knows where they might have gone? Pan Chen was a rock that killed people without karma. Even if he destroyed a plane, he would still be alive and kicking. But if he led Little Fire astray, that would be a disaster. He could be fine, but the kid couldn't. Mei Ziqing, she felt like a single mother. Mei Ziqing felt responsible for Little Fire. Ning Shu, there were many things to do. It was very tiring to take on the responsibility of another person. Ning Shu held his head and thought speechlessly. Pan Chen was with the school doctor now. Why didn't he take care of his own people? Yes, Pan Chen was with the school doctor. If he couldn't find Pan Chen, he would find the school doctor. Ning Shu propped her chin on her hand as she poked at the incense burner. She asked 2333, do you have the school doctor's contact number? No, 2333 said without thinking. Ning Shu stopped and put down the wire. He asked calmly, you really don't have it? No. You really don't have it? No. I know you do. Back in the City of Water, you called the school doctor over. I don't have his contact number, so you have his. Besides, it's not like you know someone. Why hide it? Now that you're in trouble, you have to find him. Tell me his contact number, Ning Shu said casually. 2333, it was his business who he knew. Even if he knew the school doctor, it didn't matter. Chapter 1846. No, I don't have his contact information, 2333 said. You can ask in the chat group. Ask who? Ning Shu was expressionless. In the chat group, she was ostracized. When she kicked Hongyu out of Water City, she was criticized in the chat group. Even if she appeared in the chat group, no one would pay attention to her. Ning Shu didn't want to do things that were embarrassing for her. Ning Shu felt that 2333 had the contact information of the school doctor, but she didn't know why he wanted to hide it. Ask Ah Wan. You can also ask the Chongsam man, 2333 said. Okay, give me the contact information. I'm not going to eat him. What are you afraid of? Ning Shu said angrily. Now it's his people who kidnapped the child. Okay. 2333 finally relented. A new friend name appeared in Ning Shu's chat list. Senior Uncle, Senior Uncle. Is this the name of the school doctor? Ning Shu clicked on his name and was about to talk to him, but was told that she didn't have the right to talk. Even if she knew the school doctor's contact information, she didn't have the right to talk. Ning Shu sent a friend request to the other party. They could only talk after becoming friends. While waiting, Ning Shu sent a message to Mei Ziqing and asked her to wait. Mei Ziqing was very calm and thanked Ning Shu. Mei Ziqing was silent for a moment and said, Ning Shu, Mei Ziqing. As Ning Shu said this to Mei Ziqing, the system dinged. There was a message. However, the message was that the other party refused to talk and rejected her friend request. Ning Shu, the other party probably looked at it and rejected it directly. Ning Shu applied again. This time, he used the title of Water City. This should have some weight. After a while, the other party agreed. There was no greeting, just a, "What's the matter?" Ning Shu said thoughtfully. After Ning Shu sent the message, there was no reply for a long time. Ning Shu typed another line. Senior Uncle, Ning Shu, I'm asking about Pan Chen, not whether he's really there or not. Ning Shu just wanted to roll his eyes and ask, then the other party didn't respond again. Ning Shu had a feeling that the other party was always disconnected from time to time. Could it be that the internet was not very good? Ning Shu took out the roses from the vase and played with them. The other party had been disconnected for too long. If this was a game, this person would definitely be a fraud. Ning Shu closed her eyes to rest, waiting for the other party's reply. In the end, she actually fell asleep. When she woke up, the chat interface was still open. She rubbed her eyes, but the other party still didn't reply. Ning Shu, she had been waiting to hear's tea. Ning Shu added some agarwood to the incense burner, stirred it a little, and then closed the lid. White smoke from the agarwood drifted out from the holes, appearing very elegant. The chat system dinged. Ning Shu looked up at the chat interface. It was a message from the school doctor, saying that Xiaohua was now in Water City and asking them to go and claim him. After sending the message, Ning Shu found that the other party's icon had dimmed and disappeared from her contact list. Ning Shu, did she delete her from the friend list? In other words, she didn't have the other party's contact information now. She was really noble and cold. When Ning Shu saw this message, she quickly sent a message to Mei Ziqing, saying that he was now in the city of Man, go to Water City. Ning Shu said to 2333. She didn't want to know why 2333 had the school doctor's contact information. In any case, 2333 was much more mysterious than she thought. After a series of kneading and tearing, Ning Shu stood on the streets of the city of water. When she arrived at the restaurant, Mei Ziqing had not arrived yet. However, she saw Pan Chen and Xiaohua sitting together and ordering a table full of dishes. The plates were stacked up in layers. Pan Chen ate heartily. Not only did he eat, but he also let Xiaohua eat. Ning Shu looked at the two of them. Mei Ziqing was about to go crazy, but the two of them were still eating and drinking here. Mei Ziqing arrived later. When she saw this scene, she was furious and walked over. When Xiaohua saw Mei Ziqing, he stood up and shouted happily, Ziqing. Why didn't you tell me where you were going? I was looking for you like crazy, afraid that you would be eaten by someone, Mei Ziqing said angrily. Now that she found her child, she was angry and scared to beat someone up. Ziqing, Xiaohua shouted, looking pitiful. Xiaohua's hair was already short. This pitiful look really made her feel like a mother. Pan Chen threw down the bones under his hand. How boring. I just brought him around to play. Do you two have to do this? Pan Chen was very unhappy. He was controlled and sent here. He was supposed to bring this silly kid around, but he was brought back and left here. I can't do anything to you. I'll eat you until you're poor. You took him away without saying goodbye. This is kidnapping. Ning Shu said, Xiaohua, Mei Ziqing is very worried about you. I know I'm wrong. I'll definitely say goodbye next time. Xiaohua reflected seriously. Ning Shu, Mei Ziqing, this isn't about saying goodbye. Mei Ziqing didn't know what to say. You should stay away from people like him. Pan Chen was expressionless. He looked at Mei Ziqing and licked his lips. Who do you think I am? It's boring to eat vegetables. It's more interesting to eat souls. Pan Chen opened his mouth wide. His face became ferocious to scare Mei Ziqing. He reached out to grab Mei Ziqing. It looked like he wanted to devour his soul. Ning Shu flicked his finger and an invisible force hit Pan Chen. Who are you trying to scare in my territory? Pan Chen rubbed his face and stared at Ning Shu unkindly. I can't do anything to you here. But once we leave this place, we can compete. What's there to compete? You kill people without karma. If you want to devour me, you can do it in a matter of minutes. Ning Shu looked at Pan Chen silently. You think I don't dare? Pan Chen sneered. He slammed his fist on the table, causing the plates on the table to shake. Mei Ziqing said coldly, you're being unreasonable. You took him away, but you're still being unreasonable. Xiaohua, don't associate with people like him. He can do whatever he wants, but we can't. He kills people without karma, but we can't. Chapter 1847. You. Pan Chen's expression suddenly changed. Count yourselves lucky. I'm leaving. Looking at Pan Chen's expression, he must be afraid of something. Pan Chen turned to leave. He turned back and said to Xiaohua, let's play together next time. Pan Chen winked at Xiaohua. Wait for me to come find you. Mei Ziqing's expression was extremely dark. Ning Shu stopped Pan Chen. Pan Chen looked at Ning Shu expressionlessly. What are you doing? Do you want to fight? Not fighting. I just want to pay the bill. Such a big table of dishes was definitely not cheap. If Pan Chen left, they would definitely pay the bill. Run after eating. Dream on. Pan Chen looked at Ning Shu. So stingy. I don't have money. Pan Chen was very straightforward. His expression said, what can you do to me? What does that have to do with me? Ning Shu and Mei Ziqing said. Let's go. Mei Ziqing pulled Xiaohua and left the restaurant with Ning Shu. Pan Chen was just about to leave when he was stopped by the waiter. The waiter looked at him silently. Please pay the bill. I don't have money. Pan Chen was not a mission enforcer. It was not like he did not have merit and faith. Pan Chen was not afraid at all. If there was a conflict, he could just swallow them. These people's souls were really strong. Swallowing one soul was equivalent to swallowing 10,000 ordinary people. Awesome. Pan Chen said carelessly and arrogantly, I don't have money. Pan Chen was just short of putting his face in front of the waiter and asking him to hit him. His appearance was really asking for a beating. The waiter, he had never seen such an awesome person eating and dashing. The waiter was about to speak when Shu Bai, who was wearing a beautiful cheongsam, walked over and asked, Sir, do you not have money to pay the bill? I don't have money to pay the bill. What can you do to me? What can you do to me? Pan Chen raised his chin. He wanted these people to attack him first. That way, he would have a reason to swallow these strong souls. It was all that man's fault. He kept him in custody every day, not allowing him to cause trouble, not allowing him to kill people, not allowing him to do this and not doing that. It was simply annoying. In the face of Pan Chen's provocation, Shu Bai said calmly, you don't have to pay the bill with merit and faith power. You can use something of the same value. Mister, you should have something of the same value with you, right? No, I don't have a single cent. Pan Chen crossed his arms and bared his teeth. Ning Shu waited for Mei Ziqing and Xiaohua to leave before returning to the restaurant. He was speechless when he saw Pan Chen's despicable face. Shu Bai said calmly, what do you mean? This won't do, that won't do. What exactly do you want? Moreover, not only did he want to renege on his debt, he even wanted to cause trouble. What was wrong with him? Pan Chen Ning Shu bared his teeth and licked his lips. Ning Shu moved closer to Shu Bai's ear and whispered to her about the identity of the troublemaker. When Shu Bai heard about the background of this person, she couldn't help but frown, especially since the other party was deliberately provoking them. It was obvious that he wanted to cause trouble. However, if they were to let him go just like that, there would be so many dishes on the table. Furthermore, all of them were expensive dishes. Not to mention the direct losses involved, more importantly, they couldn't give the impression that the restaurant was easy to bully. Otherwise, anyone would be able to renege on the bill in the future. The logic behind this was the same as Ning Shu's current position as the city lord. He had to protect his own interests. When doing business, one was afraid of encountering such customers. They were so unscrupulous that they were speechless. Shu Bai had a headache and felt that she wasn't in a good mood. Even if she brought out her backer, this guy wouldn't care at all. The school doctor, who was dressed in black, came in and handed his personal information card to Shu Bai. "Bill, please." When Pan Chen saw him, he was immediately stunned. His expression became impatient, but he didn't dare to act rashly. "Okay." Shu Bai swiped the card to pay the bill and returned the card to the school doctor. The school doctor was wearing white gloves. He took the card through the gloves and kept it. "You want to cause trouble again. If you continue like this, I can only crush you into dust." The school doctor looked at Pan Chen. Pan Chen wasn't convinced, but he didn't dare to say anything. Pan Chen curled his lips and rolled his eyes like a rebellious child. The school doctor tidied up his gloves and reached out his hand. He grabbed Pan Chen's collar and threw him into the black hole behind him. "You're doing it again. Senior uncle, you're crazy." Pan Chen was swallowed by the black hole. Pan Chen's angry voice was still floating in the air. The school doctor slowly took off his gloves, turned around, and left. Shu Bai heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, it settled. Otherwise, I don't know how to end today's matter. Ning Shu grinned and sat down. He picked up the menu and ordered some dishes. Shu Bai sat opposite Ning Shu. The waiter served tea. Shu Bai poured the tea and drank it slowly. She asked, "I have something to ask you. How do you plan to deal with the auction? The shop owners of Water City are now guessing what you want to do." Ning Shu also poured tea and drank it leisurely with a smile on his face. "I don't want to do anything. As for the connection between the barrier of the auction house and the barrier of the entire Water City, it was a complete accident." Shu Bai held the teacup. "If you say it was an accident, then it was an accident." Everyone knew the reason, so Shu Bai didn't ask anymore. The dishes were served. Shu Bai stood up and was about to leave. Ning Shu said, "Sit down and eat together. Anyway, I ordered a few more dishes. Since the city lord invited me, Shu Bai won't stand on ceremony." Shu Bai sat down and picked up her chopsticks. Ning Shu asked, "Did anything big happen in Water City recently?" Shu Bai, "I knew this meal wasn't for free. What does the city lord want to know?" Ning Shu said with a smile, "Just tell me what happened. Pick something interesting to talk about." Shu Bai put down her chopsticks and slowly fanned herself with her round fan, looking very elegant and leisurely. The nomological space is actually quite peaceful. After all, fighting is prohibited. The most interesting thing during this period is, it should be the city lord. You, the newly appointed city lord, actually sealed the auction house because you're not familiar with the nomological laws. Shu Bai covered her mouth with her round fan, revealing a pair of peaceful and beautiful eyes. Ning Shu's expression didn't change. "It seems that I'm still a joke. The city lord was so useless." In order to prove her ability, should she remove the barrier of the auction house to get rid of the title of incompetent city lord? Public opinion was really an interesting thing. It was likely that many people now knew that she was an incompetent city lord. Shu Bai said, "Since the city lord said that you're not familiar with the nomological laws, people will definitely help you publicize it. What's more embarrassing is that I'm really like that. Therefore, the matter of the auction house will take a long time to resolve. Ning Shu picked up his teacup and drank some water. After eating so many delicacies, he finally threw the dog food to the back of his mind. Chapter 1848. Ning Shu did not intend to lower his head even if he used public opinion. Moreover, Ning Shu did not feel that many people knew him. He was just an incompetent city lord. Mission takers spent most of their time on missions. Who would care if they were using someone else's body? At least Ning Shu did not care at all. To be able to use such a method meant that the other party was anxious. This was a good sign. Let's wait for the powerful person behind this to jump out first. Shu Bai paused for a moment and finally said, as long as the city lord does not have any accidents in the restaurant. Of course not. I will be more careful after leaving the auction house. Don't worry about that. Ning Shu said with a smile. She wasn't crazy. If she closed the shop for no reason and caused the shop to have no business, where would her taxes come from? The auction house was like sending away a beggar. Anyway, she could not get much from the auction house. To her, the loss was insignificant. Shu Bai smiled gently. I am relieved to hear you say that. Don't worry. As long as you don't shortchange me, everything is negotiable. Ning Shu paid the bill and left the restaurant. He rose into the air and repaired the enchantment of the entire city to prevent the turbulent laws from destroying the city. Ning Shu looked at the deserted auction house and smiled. Good luck. These days were still long. After that, Ning Shu went to various cities to look for the world's origin. The things that could be bought with merit and faith were trivial. After all, he had enough resources to look for these things now. However, he did not find anything after looking around. He still needed 3 types of world's origin. Other than the world's origin, there was also the world of reincarnation. This gave Ning Shu a headache. He could only search slowly. He had the resources and time. There was nothing he could not do. Ning Shu felt that he was very lucky. He had the world carrier and found 4 types of world's origin. He had become the embodiment of the law of water. Many mission takers had not started to build their world. Even if he was anxious, there was no use. Ning Shu could only comfort himself to take it slow. Let's return to the system space. Since he did not find what he wanted, Ning Shu decided to return to the system space. Ning Shu looked at the black hole. He couldn't help but want to jump in and see what was inside. Don't think about it. What if you can't come back? 2333 saw Ning Shu's eagerness and quickly stopped Ning Shu. Ning Shu thought for a moment, then reached out and slowly put his hand into the black hole. He would not be satisfied if he did not seek death. Ning Shu felt a pain in her soul. Her arms seemed to have been cut off by the astral winds in the black hole. Ning Shu took 2 steps back, away from the black hole, and reformed an arm. After expending some of his soul energy, he realized that the situation inside was rather dangerous. If there was nothing important, he would not go in. Ning Shu also gave up on the idea of going into the black hole. Ning Shu took out the law book and practiced as he read. Using the law was something that consumed a lot of mental energy. When Ning Shu was tired, he stopped to rest for a while and then practiced again. After stopping to rest, Ning Shu said to 2333, "Don't do weird missions." Oh. 2333 said, "It's so annoying to choose missions for you. I have so many requests. It's a thankless task and I can't even get a good word from you. Do you think it's easy for me?" Ning Shu was speechless. "It's been hard on you. But we each have our own tasks. You'll get 10% of the soul energy without moving." "Don't complain," Ning Shu said. "I'm not complaining. I just want you to know that it's hard for me too. It's hard for everyone, 2333 said. Ning Shu raised his eyebrows. What's wrong with you? Why are you acting pitiful? You're not acting pitiful. Besides, you're not pitiful. 2333, after resting for a while, Ning Shu started to practice again. He went back and forth. In the end, his mental energy couldn't take it anymore. Ning Shu stopped practicing and rested for a while. He lay on the sofa and opened the chat system. No one was looking for him, so he closed it. Mei Ziqing was probably teaching her child a lesson. Who told you to run away with a stranger? Stupid kid. Ning Shu stretched and said to 2333, let's do a mission. Ning Shu didn't have any special requirements for the mission. As long as it wasn't a dog, it was fine. Okay. Ning Shu felt dizzy. His soul slowly entered a body. When he opened his eyes, he saw a magnificent room. The beams were high and round. There were all kinds of paintings on the walls. The colors were exaggerated and the figures were abstract. After looking at them for a long time, his eyes hurt. Ning Shu looked at her own creation. It was a bright yellow dress with slanted shoulders. Her arms were long and slender, her fingers were long and slender. When she lifted up the skirt, her legs were long too. Even if she was ugly, she had a great figure. Her legs were long and slender, her waist was slim. Her skin was white and she had long brown curly hair. This body should be beautiful. Ning Shu began to accept the plot. This time it wasn't a dog. It was a snake. The famous snake demon Medusa. The client was called Medusa. She was a virgin priestess of the Temple of Passion in Athens. At first, Medusa was just a beautiful, ordinary human being. Medusa, the snake demon, was the scariest demon in Greek mythology. She was also the most beautiful woman in the myths. Men and male gods wanted to marry her. Poseidon, the god of the sea, lusted after her beauty. He raped the priestess in the temple of Athena. In anger, Athena turned Medusa's hair into poisonous snakes and cast a curse. Anyone who looked at her would be turned into a stone statue. Thus, she became an ugly monster. Medusa was raped by Poseidon. She asked Athena for help. Athena ignored her. When Poseidon pulled up his pants and left, Athena vented her anger on Medusa. Her crime was to sully her temple and commit such a filthy act in her temple. Athena could not punish Poseidon because he was the brother of Zeus, the god of the sea. When Poseidon and his brother were young, they united and overthrew their father, the previous god king Cronus's tyrannical rule. Through Zeus's arrangement, Poseidon became the god of the sea. He was in charge of all the waters and his status was second only to Zeus. His might was comparable to the boundless vitality of the earth and the flood. He was called the Zeus of the sea. His status and power were so high that his dominance spread across the entire universe. He was second only to Zeus in power. Under the curse of Athena, the priestess of the temple, Medusa, became an ugly monster with snake hair and a pair of boar fangs. Even her neck was covered with snake scales. Even her lower body became a snake's tail. In the end, Perseus cut off Medusa's head and offered it to Athena. Athena embedded Medusa's head in the center of Aegis. Chapter 1849. When Medusa was beheaded by the hero Perseus, she was pregnant at that time. The Pegasus Pegasus and the giant Chryseis flew out from her body. No one blamed Poseidon and Athena for their actions. After all, Poseidon and Athena were gods while Medusa was just a small priestess in a temple. How could starlight compete with the sun and moon? This incident couldn't punish the evildoers, but the victim shouldn't be punished either. Even in myths, if a woman was raped, it was the woman's fault. Blame the woman for being immoral. Why didn't she rape others? Nviwa and Medusa were both snake women, but their fates were completely different. The ancient goddess Nviwa created humans and saved them from the dangers of fire and water. She was the symbol of the benevolent and gentle gods in China. On the other hand, ancient Chinese myths were mostly about gods saving humans or gods fighting against each other. Most of them highlighted the characteristics of the ancient gods who were above the mortal world and had no desires. From the tragic story of Medusa becoming a snake woman, it could be seen that the gods in Greek myths mostly had human characteristics, such as jealousy, lust, and other human characteristics. They released their natural instincts and had no qualms about sex. They had no qualms about siblings, parents, children, and so on. For example, Zeus, his wife, various goddesses, and his sisters, ants, and ants. He was a big pervert. At the same time, it also reflected the open society of ancient Greece. Medusa was helpless and was raped by the sea god. She asked Athena for help, but Athena didn't save her. After all, it was a person's choice to save others. The other party was the sea god, so it was normal that Athena wouldn't get into a conflict with the sea god over a small priestess. But Athena vented all her anger on Medusa's body. Athena was the goddess of justice and wisdom. She punished Medusa by turning into an ugly snake demon. No one dared to look at her directly, or else they would turn into stone. There was no justice in it. Medusa was a tragic figure. The dignity of a god couldn't be blasphemed. Medusa, who wasn't a virgin priestess, blasphemed the goddess of wisdom, especially in the temple. Also, Athena and Poseidon had a grudge against each other. Poseidon did this in Athena's temple because Medusa was beautiful, and Poseidon was unscrupulous. As a man, Poseidon naturally loved beautiful women. It was good to be able to enjoy and take revenge at the same time. When Athens was first built by a Phoenician, Poseidon and Athena vied for the honor of naming it, and finally reached an agreement. The one who could provide the most useful thing to mankind would become the patron saint of the city. Poseidon struck the ground with his trident and summoned a horse, while Athena summoned an olive tree, a symbol of peace and prosperity. Because the horse was believed to represent war and sorrow, Athens was named after the goddess, who soon took the city under her protection. Medusa's wish was not to be raped. She did not want to become an ugly snake demon, and she did not want to be beheaded. Ning Shu rubbed her forehead. Although she was a priestess and represented Athena to a certain extent, she was still inferior to these gods. Every god had their own divine power and natural power. Now that Ning Shu was in the temple, the entire temple was within the range of Athena's divine power. Everyone's actions were under Athena's watch. Athena was able to tolerate the sea god breaking into her temple and doing such a thing. Poseidon swaggered in and then swaggered out. After Poseidon left, he vented his anger on a woman who had been raped and could not retaliate. He was drunk. It was normal to bully the weak and fear the strong, and it was the same for the gods. Ning Shu activated the ultimate martial arts in his body. The spiritual energy around him surged into his body. At least he had some self-defense ability. Otherwise, he would not be able to fight back against Poseidon's wild horse. Didn't he know that the law of this world suppressed him greatly? It should not be that great. After all, there were gods everywhere. The suppression should not be that great. But in the temple, Ning Shu could not test it out. A divine servant came in to help Ning Shu wash up. Ning Shu looked at her reflection in the basin. Her face was really beautiful. Her nose was high, her eyes were deep, and her eyelashes were long. When she blinked, it was like a fan sweeping across her face. Her facial features were three-dimensional. She was an exquisite beauty in the eyes of the Westerners. Ning Shu washed his face with water and used paint to draw some marks on his face. It could be considered a special makeup. He went in front of Athena and made a sacrifice to receive the people who came to worship. Ning Shu was wearing a veil. As she walked, a pair of slender legs could be vaguely seen through the veil. In front of the statue of the goddess, a magnificent statue of Athena made of ivory and gold stood in the temple. Ning Shu prostrated himself on the ground, muttering something under his breath. The statue of Athena was not even 1/10 as beautiful as Athena herself. Athena was a famous goddess with bright eyes. She had a pair of bright and large gray eyes, a broad forehead, and a healthy bronze skin. Her hair was thick and long. Sometimes it was draped over her back, and sometimes it was tied up with a golden ribbon. It was between gold and brown. Athena wore a helmet and armor. She held a spear or the goddess of victory in her right hand. Compared to the other goddesses, she was more masculine. Athena was one of the 12 Olympians. Her strength was not to be underestimated. In Athena's temple, anyone who did anything out of line would be punished by Athena. She was Athena's representative in the human world. Ning Shu made a complicated sacrifice and prayed for the people who came to the temple. It was probably because her body was so beautiful that it attracted a lot of attention, especially the eyes of men. Ning Shu felt that he was being watched, but he could not do anything out of line. He could not scold anyone. Beauty, kindness, these beautiful things needed to be protected. Otherwise, it would be a disaster. Medusa was just a small priestess, but she had an appearance that made other women jealous. This was a disaster. After being raped by Poseidon, she could not retaliate. After being punished by Athena, she still could not retaliate. After being watched for a while, the sacrifice was over. Ning Shu returned to his room in the temple. Even the walls of the room were painted with Athena's portrait. Ning Shu rubbed his eyes. The exaggerated colors hurt his eyes. Ning Shu pulled open the layers of colorful curtains and lay down on the bench. Ning Shu lay on the bench. Her neck was slender, and her slightly curly chestnut hair was thick. Her legs were long and round, and the curves of her body were faintly discernible under the gauze. She was so beautiful that it made people's blood boil. She was barefoot, and there were golden bells on her snow-white feet. As Ning Shu moved, the golden bells made a crisp sound. XHTML. Chapter 1850. Ning Shu cultivated, occasionally moving his body. Outside the door, a pair of eyes stared at Ning Shu, sizing him up brazenly. His gaze was too unscrupulous. Ning Shu couldn't help it. Motherfucker, it was one thing to be looked at. As a priest, it was normal to be looked at by others. But this kind of lewd, undisguised lewdness. Ning Shu wanted to gouge out the eyes of the peeping pervert. It's my business that I'm beautiful, but it's wrong of you to stare at me like that. Ning Shu stood up from the bench and put on the veil, revealing a pair of deep eyes. Her eyes were slightly blue, like the sea. When she blinked, it was like the blue sea under the sunlight, sparkling with a fine luster. The peeping pervert's eyes became even more fervent. He scanned Ning Shu's body from head to toe, and finally stopped at his chest. Ning Shu, oh, my bad temper. Ning Shu walked out of the temple and looked up to see a white horse golden chariot in the sky. A man was standing on the chariot. This man had a thick beard and his eyes were staring straight at Ning Shu. This was Poseidon. He was tall and sturdy, with blue hair and a long robe. From Poseidon's face, Poseidon had a strong sense of aggression and great ambition. Poseidon always wanted to take the throne of Zeus. He was ambitious and belligerent. He was not satisfied with his power and often had conflicts with the gods. Ning Shu was alarmed. Was the rape going to happen now? Ning Shu measured her strength. Could she beat Poseidon now? Besides, Poseidon had a trident and could summon wind and rain. Poseidon's eyes were glued to her, his eyeballs almost falling out. Ning Shu really wanted to give him a tight slap across his face. Look my ass. But Ning Shu couldn't do that. Firstly, she couldn't beat Poseidon now. Secondly, If she did something out of line and embarrassed Athena, Athena would punish her. The look in Poseidon's eyes made Ning-Shu feel disgusted. The Olympian gods were a bunch of nonsense. There was nothing that couldn't be done. Poseidon, what are you doing in my temple? Athena appeared in the air and looked at Poseidon on the golden warhorse. When Athena appeared, Ning-Shu prostrated on the ground and made the most sincere expression. A beauty would be beautiful no matter what she did. Ning-Shu prostrated on the ground, making Poseidon's blood rush to his third leg. She was really a beauty. Poseidon reluctantly shifted his gaze away from Ning-Shu and looked at the goddess of wisdom, Athena, who was clad in armor. I'm just here to take a look at this rich city. This city shouldn't be called Athens. It was named after me. Poseidon looked at the city of Athens. What would happen if the sea drowned the city? Although Athena didn't want to offend Poseidon, the city of Athens was under her protection. It was her city and she couldn't allow Poseidon to do as he pleased. Even if Poseidon was the god of the sea, she was still the daughter of Zeus and had great power since birth. In a sense, she was the child of Zeus. The prophecy said that Metissa's son would overthrow Zeus. Zeus was afraid that the prophecy would come true and swallowed Metis whole. After that, Zeus suffered from severe headaches. As the father of the gods, Zeus had no choice but to ask the god of fire, Hephaestus, to open his head. The god of fire used his axe to split open his father's head. To the amazement of the gods of Mount Olympus, a beautiful goddess with a graceful figure and full of armor jumped out of the cracked skull. She was radiant and graceful. Athena seemed to be the continuation of Zeus, the executor of Zeus's will. She was the thought of Zeus in action. The identity of Metissa's mother gradually became blurred. It seemed that Athena was born from Zeus alone. Athena's status was noble. She had a high status in the gods' family. She was the queen and the female ruler. Athena looked at the eccentric Poseidon with a cold expression. He was still causing trouble because he failed to fight for the city's name. In terms of status, Poseidon was Athena's uncle. However, bloodlines were nothing to these gods. And there were so many gods that they couldn't even be counted. Now that you have seen it, you can leave. Athena, who was wearing her armor, stared at Poseidon with her bright eyes. It was not that she did not notice that Poseidon kept glancing at her priestess. Athena frowned. Poseidon laughed. Don't be afraid. I'm really just passing by. I'll leave now. Poseidon rode away on his golden warhorse. His eyes were fixed on Ning-Shu, who was lying on the ground. His gaze was too obvious and too obvious. Athena, your priestess is beautiful. She's even more beautiful than the sirens in my sea, Poseidon said brazenly. Let her be my priestess. Athena pursed her lips and looked at him. Scram! Poseidon chuckled and flew away in his golden chariot. Athena, I'll be back for you in the future. Poseidon had a bad temper and was greedy beyond measure. He controlled the sea and wanted to fight for land. He also wanted to defeat Zeus and become the king of the gods. Athena watched Poseidon's chariot disappear into the distance. She turned to Ning-Shu, who was prostrating on the ground. Medusa. Athena walked around Ning-Shu. Ning-Shu immediately said, Here. Athena sat on a chair and looked at Ning-Shu, who was prostrating herself on the ground. You are my priestess. You represent the entire Parthenon temple. Watch your words and actions. Don't flaunt your beauty and do anything against the rules. Otherwise, I will punish you. Athena was the goddess of law and order. She had even founded the first court in Athens, the court of war god. Ning-Shu prostrated himself on the ground. The cold air from the floor passed through the gauze and onto his skin. Remember. Athena looked at Ning-Shu's clothes. You can't wear this. Athena was a solemn and dignified virgin in her armor. She wore a battle robe, weapons in hand, and a helmet on her head. Athena was dissatisfied with her priestess attire. Ning Shu kowtowed to the ground. Believer, remember. She didn't want to wear this. Every time she went out, people would stare at her. Raise your head, Athena said sternly. She looked at Ning Shu and said sternly. Ning Shu looked up. He closed his eyes and couldn't look directly at Athena. Athena looked at Ning Shu. He was indeed beautiful. When the Parthenon wanted a beautiful woman to be their priestess, the entire city of Athens was looking for one. In the end, Medusa was chosen. Athena's aura was very strong. She was stronger than Ning Shu had expected. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.